Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show and tell you about Noom. Has Noom helped you? I believe it has.
Oh, that's got an app. You can do tracking. It's terrific.
It does. Noom builds personal plans that can meet individual needs. That's the thing. Takes into account any dietary restrictions, medical issues, other personal needs. That helps build a plan that works for you. And yes, so I know that you've had your own personalized program here that you've been working on. And
it's weight loss This is weight loss results that last. They stick around because you get yourself into a lifestyle change. That's what matters.
That's mainly it. You can't just say, I'm going to cut that out for a month and then go back to it. That's not what it is. So I'm glad it's helping you. That's great. And it really does. I like the psychology and biology-based approach here. Yeah. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain, but it also takes into account your unique biological factors, Jimmy. All of your multitude flora and fauna that goes on inside of you there. Sure. Yeah. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com, Noom.com here, based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum starting BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit our website for more information. Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit more about Rocket Money. It's the start of a new year. It's the perfect time to get organized, set your goals, prioritize what matters most. And for me, top priority is getting myself together here. Financial wellness, doing that, which that feels important, just feels like adult stuff that you have to do. And thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable now. They show me all my subscriptions in one place, help me easily cancel ones I forgot that I've been paying for, which happened to me, absolutely happened to me. For years, I was paying for something. I was like, what is going on here? Rocket Money found it and saved me lots of money since then, because it's been a while. So they did a great job here. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/smalltownmurder today. That's rocketmoney.com/smalltownmurder. rocketmoney.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
Welch's can't make everything make sense. Like why your mom still listens to the radio or what she meant when she sent that emoji. But a zero sugar drink that's still full of fruit flavor, we made that make sense. And strawberry, passion fruit, Concord grape, and more. You gotta sip it to get it. New Welch's Zero Sugar. Let's fruit stuff up.
This week, in Manhattan, Montana, a series of seemingly random disappearances lead to the FBI's first criminal profile, some awful discoveries in a freezer, and a very, very sick serial killer hiding in plain sight. Welcome to Small Town Murder. Everybody, and welcome back to Small Town Murder.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed, man. Sound like you were in a hole. Like we had to save Jimmy. He's in a hole.
My air refused to leave me.
That was Jimmy's in a well. Everybody, we're going to record this from in there. We're trying to get him out.
It's so hard, and it would not come.
Difficult. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmie Whisman.
Down in that hole. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah. We have a wild case for you. A case that is not something you hear about. It's not a case you hear about all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's a serial killer, which is very strange. And literally the first criminal profile that the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit put together. So
really?
Yeah.
It wasn't Bundy?
No, not at all. This is years before Bundy.
It wasn't Manson?
Not at all. No, Manson, they didn't have to put a profile together for him. Jesus, they knew what was going on there. So that said, it's a crazy case. We'll get into it. But first of all, we have to tell you a few things. First, Your Stupid Opinions, the new podcast that we're doing here. It's out. all apps, all podcast
everywhere.
platforms. Listen right now where we talk about dumb reviews from the internet, and God, is it fun. And
Boy,
funny.
do I love it.
It's so much fun. We can't wait. Also, listen to Crime and Sports, which is also fun and funny and great.
Boy, do I love it.
Boy, do I love it. We've had a lot of murder lately and stuff, too, so check that out, definitely. You also want to head over to shutupandgivememurder.com to get your tickets for December 2nd, Dallas. All the other shows are sold out, but that one has some tickets left, and Small Town Murder Live. And then also, let's say you can't make it. Maybe you're not around Dallas. Maybe you're in Australia or, New Hampshire. Either way, whether you're in Australia or New Hampshire, get ready for October the 26th, the virtual live show for Small Town Murder, just like a regular live show, except you don't have to leave your house. It's beautiful. Anywhere in the world that has internet, you can get it. It's available for a week after the 26th, all through Halloween. We'll wear costumes on the show. It'll be a Halloween spectacular, an extra creepy Halloween case. It's going to be so much fun. We can't wait. Shut Up and Give Me Murder. That's the website. .com/virtual live is where you get those tickets. So get those. We can't wait to see you. You also need Patreon. Patreon.com/crime in sports is where you get all the bonus materials. There's so much. And anybody $5 a month or above, a mere cup of coffee you'll either get a cup of mediocre coffee or a couple hundred back episodes, bonus episodes to binge, and new ones every other week. Come on, guys. I think we're competing well in the marketplace here.
I think we're crushing it,
for your $5 here. And for Crime and Sports, what you'll get, which you'll have access to, we're going to talk about BS High, which if you're a murder person and not a sports person, you should watch this documentary and all around it, because this guy... I'm pretty sure he's going to kill somebody
There's
someday.
going to be bodies in his wake, for sure. There already are careers in his wake.
Oh, he made a fake high school and had them to play against these kids that are much better than that. It's a long story, but we'll get into it. It's a bonus episode. It's not a bonus episode length story. And then for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about Joey Buttafuoco.
Oh, boy.
And Amy Fisher and that whole mess that happened in the 90s. And if you don't know anything about it, I'll just say this. The man's name is Joey Buttafuoco. Don't you want to know about that? You do. Trust me. There's a shooting involved and weird sexual stuff.
She didn't kill a woman, but she certainly killed her future.
Ooh, it's crazy stuff. That is patreon.com/crime and sports. And you'll get a shout out at the end of the show. Jimmie will mispronounce your name terribly while trying his hardest to get it correct. That said, disclaimer time. Quickly, we're comedians. This is a comedy show, but it's also very, very real. That's the thing here. This is the balance that we do here. Everything is real. Nothing's made up for comic effect or anything like that. It's scarily real. It really is. So the only way to do this is what we don't do is we go out of our way not to make fun of the victims or the victims' families.
Why, James?
Because we're assholes.
But
we're not scumbags. See how that works? There you go. It's nice and clean and it's all good. And trust me, there's a lot of dumb stuff to make fun of when someone decides to be a murderer. So we'll check all of that. We'll talk about all of that and more, all this murder stuff. But I think it's time, everybody, to sit back. If you think true crime and comedy don't go together, maybe go away or just don't complain later. But for everybody else, let's all sit back. I think it's time to clear the lungs and let's all shout. Shut up and give me murder. All right, let's do this, Jimmie. Let's go on a trip, everybody. What do you say?
We shall.
We're going all the way to Montana this week. And not a ton of Montana episodes we haven't really done. So, Montana's a...
Letterman.
Yeah, I guess he's out there. A lot of people have, ranches in Montana. That's where people... That's where you go to, quote, get away from people. So that tells you a lot about the state. Yeah. I go there, and there's no people for 5 miles. They don't see my beard. It's great. So Manhattan, Montana. Manhattan, just like New York. That's how it's spelled.
Knew better than that.
It is not a metropolis. We'll put it that way. It's a very
absolutely,
small town.
100% already existed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. This is in southwestern Montana, and that's like the third thing they called it, by the way. That's the other thing. They went through other names first we'll talk about.
Sir with the Bronx.
Oh, man. Yeah, they were like, Queens? No, that's not going to work. So it's about an hour 20 to Helena, Montana. About 25 minutes to Bozeman. So that's the nearest place here. And about an hour to Butte, Montana, which was our last episode, The Dance of Death, which was a very fun, crazy, weird Express episode. This is in Gallatin County. And area code 406. And the motto here, again, we see this, half the towns are either
a nice place to live,
a great place to work and live and play and all that bullshit, or the heart of Gallatin County.
Yeah, it's
which is just
the heart.
The heart of. Well, what isn't the heart? Does no one ever says the liver of so-and-so county? The pancreas of Gallatin County.
We're really the kidneys of Maricopa County. Phoenix.
I would appreciate that if somebody said that. You know what I mean? I would.
Phoenix, Arizona. The real small bladder.
Yeah, the bowel of...
Or small intestine.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I mixed
the left
up
ventricle of Gallatin County.
And gallbladder.
That'd be nice. History of this town. Yeah. In 1865, it was established as the first town in the area here. Mm-hmm. It was called Hamilton back then.
Okay.
In 1868, they established a post office under the name Hamilton, and it was described by 1874 in a newspaper. It was described as a typical Western town, one store, a blacksmith shop, and a schoolhouse.
Oh,
just a real little tiny street, little old West town.
You can buy food and then go to school and learn how to be a blacksmith.
Yeah, high noon fucking high noon shootouts and that sort of thing. I'm a better blacksmith than you. No, I am. 1883, by then, the Northern Pacific Railroad was like a mile north of there.
Sure.
And so then they decided, that railroad came through, and one of the people who worked for the railroad was named Moreland. So we're so happy that there's a railroad, let's change the name of our town to the name of the guy who worked for the railroad.
Okay.
So they do that. They name it Moreland after him. And then, so... They also kind of moved the town since there was only a couple things to move. They just kind of moved Main Street over.
It's crazy they do that.
The general store moved. The John Potter's General Store moved in 1883 during the winter. Mm-hmm. And they moved the structure with, how do you move a structure back then? There's no 18-wheeler. How do you move a store? Well,
do you do it with horse and carriage?
A team of bulls pulled it.
Wow.
Which seems like you'd get it'd go real fast for a minute, then slow down, and that was a real jerky ride, that seems like, right?
And in the snow, too.
Oh, yeah.
It snows like a motherfucker here.
Montana, this is heavy snows. This is a lot. So
Jesus.
It's crazy. 1890, they renamed it Manhattan at that point. They're like, you know what? Let's name it after a city with the most people. That we're not. What do you say?
Confuse the shit out of people.
Let's confuse people. Why not? Population then was 150.
Okay.
Not a lot going on.
Real Manhattan.
Yeah, that's by 1892, the Manhattan Malting Company came in to make beer.
Oh, okay,
beer.
Got it. Yeah.
And then then Prohibition came around. They closed down.
So, ruined that shit.
That wasn't good. By 1904, they had a lot of ranching and agricultural stuff going on, and blacksmiths were coming from everywhere because there's a lot of livestock, and so there's just blacksmith shops all over the place by then. So by 1912, they got their water system going and all that kind of shit. 1925, though, everything's looking good until a series of earthquakes fucks up over half the shit in the town. All the houses are all destroyed. A lot of structures.
Earthquakes in Montana, is that right?
They will find whenever our towns, a fire, an earthquake, or a flood, or a tornado, we'll find it. Every one of these towns we do. Here's some reviews of this town. Okay, here we go. Reviews 5 stars, so perfect. And most people like this. There's not a lot of negative reviews of this town.
Is that right?
Very hard to find anybody with anything bad to say. 5 stars. This is the better than Bozeman town down the road.
Oh.
They're competing with Bozeman, these people, apparently. Very affordable, very lovely. Some exclusive properties in GRR. I don't know what that is, but the area is not spoiled in grr. All capitals, so it's got to be a... But the area is not spoiled by them as one would expect. And Sir Scott's Oasis, what more can one ask for?
Sir Scott has an oasis.
I have no idea what any of the things that person said meant.
It's a lot of local references.
Those are just local references. That's like a bad comedian's opening set where you're like, you're not from that town, you're screwed.
That's a guy coming to New York and just telling Montana jokes.
Yeah, he's like, I'll tell you what. You know what I mean when you step in a pile of horse shit, when you're stepping up in front of the general store? You all know what I'm talking about.
I told the guy, this ain't Sir whose Oasis?
Sir Scott's Oasis. No, where the hell you think you are?
You are Sir Scott's Oasis?
Listen, fancy pants, this ain't Sir Scott's Oasis over here.
Why don't you head on over to Gurr?
This here's a blacksmith shop. Don't take kindly. Okay, 5 stars.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is crime, and is capitalized, like emphasis. Yeah. But it is pretty minimal and non-threatening around here. Most people take care of themselves.
Okay.
Okay, 5 stars. We have the best recreation anywhere by my standards.
Okay, yeah.
We don't know what those standards are.
Yeah.
They don't list what they are after that. They just go, I have a special rating system, and I've rated this the highest. Thank you. And they walked away.
See you around.
See ya. Here's 4 stars. Manhattan is a very small country town where you can smell cow manure almost all the time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because I assume there's probably more cows than people because we'll talk about it, not a lot of people.
I don't know, but I've never been on a road trip, smelled cow manure, and stopped the car and was like, take it in, everybody.
Hold on, everybody.
That's the worst part of the trip.
Who wants to stop and get a burger, everybody? We'll eat al fresco. What do you say?
I'm hungry.
Yeah, can't wait. You know what? Man, is there a Jack in the Box around here? But it does have an amazing community and some pretty fantastic views of the sunrise and sunset. Well, I would assume so. You can see it from in each direction all the way straight to the sun. It's big.
If it doesn't, you got a goddamn problem.
No shit. It also has nice places to go take a swim or float down a hot, sweltering day in the river. In addition, it has many beautiful places to fish. Okay, yeah, good. It does have a lot of water, good outdoor stuff. Nighttime is especially amazing. When the sky is clear with no clouds, the stars peek through, and it's just a whole new atmosphere.
I do love that.
This person's this close to writing the Montana anthem. When the stars peek through, it's a whole new atmosphere.
There is something about being out away from city lights, and when it gets dark, it's fucking mind-blowing how many stars there really are.
Light pollution. Yeah. It's
when
wild.
you can actually see it all, it's fucking staggering.
Like in my house, if you look south, you can't see shit because the city is 80 miles away. And if you look north, it's like, you're in Vermont.
Everything.
It's fucking amazing. You're like, this is awesome. Yeah, I love that. That is cool. So, nighttime's especially amazing. Even the cold temperature of the atmosphere cannot put out the warmth you feel inside, looking at the burning stars millions of miles away.
Okay, now they're too deep.
They got all poetic with it. Just the stars are pretty at night. You can see a ton of them. Thanks.
It's crazy how many you can see.
Weird shit over here. 3 stars. This person's the only one that's like a semi-negative. 3 stars. Safe community. Great for raising children, but there is not much to do, and it's too small as kids grow up. Mm-hmm. Good location right outside of the hopping Bozeman. Oh, well, Bozeman's known for being a real metropolis. I'll tell you that right now.
I've never heard of somebody say this summer we're going to go party in Bozeman.
Oh, man. You know what? Spring break this year? Fucking Bozeman. Woo! Yeah, tits out, everybody. It's Bozeman time. You don't hear that often. It's surprising, but I don't know. People in this town, 1,884 right now.
That's tiny.
1,884. When our story takes place, it had 800. So it was real minuscule. 58.8% male here.
Is that right?
Yeah, because you got a lot of ranching and things like that.
Yeah.
So
watch out, ladies. Jesus.
I'm telling you, 41.2% female.
That is dangerous.
So if you're a female and you go to a bar, you never have to take $1 with you because
the amount of free drinks is crazy.
As soon as you sit down, like the bartender puts 17 drinks in front of you, and then he's like, "Now, all right, this one here is from Bill over in the corner. This one's here is from Gary. He's at the end of the bar."
My advice in this town: bottled beer, ladies. Do not buy mixed drinks.
It's gonna be someone's gonna be drugging you somewhere. Median age about 41 and a half, couple years older than the normal. It's weird, too, because there are a lot of kids that are 5 to 14 years old.
Okay.
Tons of those, and then a lot of people 35 to 55.
Sure.
Like rancher types, I guess. Family here, almost 65% married. So it's it's families. It's not a single swinging kind of a place. You know what I mean? A lot of people married with children. Single with children, 1.1%.
Crushing it.
1.1%. It's the lowest I've ever seen. It's normally 10%.
Yeah.
Some of these towns we see 30 and we're like, hey, swinging times. But race of this town, 94.1% white, which kind of what you'd expect in southwestern Montana. 0.0% black, 0.0% Asian, 2.1% Hispanic, and the remaining is 2 or more races. So there you go. It's only 0.6% Native American up here.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'd expect more. Religion in this town, only 33% religious.
Huh.
Well, when you're looking up at the stars, you go, you know what? There, the heavens right there. I see them.
Or you're
I don't need to think
there's
about.
No way there's a Jesus. That's too much work for one man.
Yeah, I've been working on the ranch
Look at all
and
the
here.
stars.
I can't even get to all the cattle. How's
There's no way
get to all
he
of
did
us?
it. No way one man did all that.
And it's mixed around a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other Christians, a couple of Mormons, a Presbyterian here or there, some Lutherans, a Methodist. It's all mixed up. 0.3% Jewish, which is more than I would expect. Yeah, more Jewish cowboys than I expected, honestly, out here. In the, that's a Woody Allen fucking, what is it? Jesus Christ. Annie Hall, the old movie Annie Hall.
Oh, okay, I know that
That's
movie,
the joke.
yeah.
That's from there. Gallatin County, Montana, last election, 52.2% voted Democratic, 44.6% Republican, 3.2% independent. Yeah. So Manhattan here, unemployment rate's about 3%, which is slightly lower than the national average, which is like 3.8% or something. So it's, low, but you don't go there if you don't have a job. What are you going to do? Just hang out and look at the stars?
I imagine there's always something to do there anyway. So,
you know
what I mean? To get
there's
paid
poop
for
to clean.
Anyway.
Nothing else. Median household income here is about $60,625 a year.
That's not so
which
bad.
Cost of living here is high, actually.
Really?
As you might imagine. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Land and houses,
Housing is the high one, though. Median home cost here, $559,400. Median home cost. That is expensive. Of course, a lot of the places, there's not a lot
so
of
much land.
Not a lot of like third acre little lots with houses next to each other. It's a lot of land here. Here we go. And if we've convinced you, damn it, to look at the stars, we have for you the Manhattan, Montana Real Estate Report. The average 2-bedroom rental here goes for $1,630 a month, which is well higher than the national average.
Oh, my God.
That's high. And then I found, here's a house here, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,728 square feet.
Yeah.
Not on a big lot, just your basic family house. It's our dead grandma special of the week. Grandma died. She's lived here for 50 years.
Yeah.
We got to sell the house and split that fucking profits up. So there's some real old, like, fake wood shit. It looks like it's from the 70s. It hasn't been touched in 50 years. The carpets look filthy, like all the furniture, you can see where it was. $475,000 for that, though.
Now I see why they're calling it Manhattan.
Yeah.
Real estate prices
are
outrageous.
They absolutely are. It's close. I'm telling you. Here's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, T-bowl for each and every beehole, obviously. 3,085 square feet. And it's on 19.89 acres, so about 20 acres.
That's amazing.
Big place. And it looks like exactly a Montana house. A lot of wood, a lot of welcome to the ranch signs.
Oh, boy.
Things like that. It said on one there's a shower curtain, and on it is written a slogan on the shower curtain: "Live like someone left the gate open."
Wild horses references. I like it.
$1,599,000 for that. Don't like it so much anymore, do you? Yeah, that just choked you.
I'd run away too.
Oh shit! 4-bedroom, 5-bath. The next house again. T-bowl for all your beeholes here. 6,492 square feet.
I can't afford this, and I already know.
Massive house. 22.5 acres.
Oh God.
On a hillside. It's like got a mountain behind it. It looks very nice. It is very ugly, by the way. Not a nice looking house, but it's big and there's a lot of land, and it's $3,500,000 for that.
David Letterman did this. I guarantee it.
It's always been like this here.
It really?
Here, the places in Idaho where you can ski, places in Wyoming where you can ski, Aspen Vale, that shit. Any of these fucking western towns, they really are expensive. Things to do here. The Manhattan.
Pay your mortgage and that's it.
Work really hard because you got a lot of mortgage to pay
You
off.
got a lot of house, fam.
Wow. Manhattan Potato Festival. Shit, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that Montana was potato industry.
I mean, Idaho's right next to it, so I would assume it would spill. This is western Montana, too. So
okay, yeah.
It would spill over.
It's close.
It says, everyone's favorite down-home summer festival celebrating the farming and ranching heritage that honors our Montana way of life. And then in all capital letters, it says, it's more fun than you can stuff in a tater sack. Oh, boy. Let's see.
More fun than you can top a tater with.
Top a tater. There's a fireman's breakfast that goes on here. I don't know if you eat with the firemen. The Tater Tot Grand Prix trike races go on after that.
Tater tots.
The Potato Fest parade happens. Senior Center Baked Potato fundraiser is going on, of course. Mini sumo wrestling.
Oh, what?
Are those tiny sumo wrestlers just fat kids? What are we doing?
The door's wide open, James.
We got the two fattest kids in town. We left the gate open. I don't know what's up with that. Spud Baby Contest.
Okay, everything.
Dress your kid up like a potato, I think.
Everything potato.
The Rubber Duck Race, which they just you have no control over that.
Yeah, that's just luck.
A Puppies and Ponies show.
Okay.
It's just cute things. Come have your kids see cute things. The Cord Rustlers Quartet will be playing.
Okay.
I don't know. They're rustling up some chords for y'all.
Yeah.
The Bloody Mary bar is going to be open the whole time.
Oh,
The lawnmower races will take place at some point.
Yeah, let's get vodka drunk and race lawnmowers.
Fuck yeah. Now that sounds fun, actually. I want to buy a couple lawnmowers just so we can do that.
I don't know that that's safe at all, James.
It's not. We're going to crash, but we won't be going that fast, so we can't. Then again, normal cars don't have blades that chop on them also. Then there's the Spudfest Family Hoedown. Dancing in the dirt with the outlaw country dancers and a drive-in movie.
Yeah,
holy
dancing
shit.
in the dirt.
Dancing in the dirt. Dancing in the dirt. Crime rate in this town. What we're interested in here. Property crime about half the national average.
Is that right?
Very low. Everything's so spread out. I mean, they'll see you. If you steal something, someone will see. Hey, come back here. I see him a half mile down the road, that sumbitch.
Don't you break their windows. Do you know how much we had to pay for ours? The poor bastards. We can't. They can't afford it. Neither can we.
Nobody can. You know how much this house costs? Violent crime, murder, rape, robbery, and, of course, assault. The Mount Rushmore of crime is less than half the average as well. So it is safe here. Yeah. That said, let's talk about a time when things were certainly not safe at all, and this tiny town of 800 people at the time was in an absolute shit panic. I mean, This was a holy shit.
Manhattan, Montana.
Oh, it was like, Son of Sam, Ted Bundy's on the loose, all rolled into one, except they didn't even know it was one person, which is the craziest part. This is crazy. Let's talk about some murder. First of all, a lot of very specific things that were nowhere else except for this book coming from court records and such. A book called Shadow Man by Ron Francel. So that's out there. And if you're interested in this story, I do recommend the book because there's a lot of information in it and it's good stuff. So let's go back in time, everybody, a bit more than we usually do. We usually keep it, semi-modern. We go to the 90s, 80s, that sort of thing. But if a case is crazy enough, we will definitely dip back a little bit further. Yeah. And this case is going to start in 1967. So
boy.
We've only had a few cases that have gone back this far in time, but trust us, this is well worth going into the black and white archives for this one.
Terrific.
So let's talk about a young man first off here. There's a young kid named Bernard Pullman, Poelman, Pullman. He's 13 years old at the time. Yeah. And he goes by Bernie, by the way. Another Bernard. We keep coming up with these in the last crime and sports and small town murder. In the last 3 weeks, we've come up with so many Bernards. It's not even funny. I don't know how it happens.
Prior to this show, I may have heard of 4.
Yeah, it's so strange. So he is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Henry Pullman at the time here, 1967. And on March 9th, 1967, young Bernie goes out, or March 19th, 1967, I apologize. He goes out with a friend of his named Richard Neal Hotzel, who's 12 years old. And they're going out, going and doing stuff kids do back then. They're going out and swimming at the swimming hole and going over here and just doing rural kid shit.
Sure.
Opie Taylor and it all the way. Right. So this day, they're climbing the supports of the Nixon Bridge that spans the West Gallatin River outside of Manhattan.
Yeah.
So they're climbing up on this bridge and they're jumping in the water as like a like a rope swing type deal.
Yeah.
They're doing.
Yeah.
So on that day, he sits atop the bridge's highest beam and gets ready to leap. This is Bernie. Yeah. He's all ready. His friend Richard Neal Hotzel is over somewhere else around there too. They can kind of hear each other, but they're not right next to each other. And so his friend Richard, he goes by Ricky, is saying, hey, come on, do something cool when you do it. Like he's telling him, do a flip or do something awesome, whatever. So at that point, Bernie, out of nowhere, grabs his chest, and clutches his chest like a 50-year-old guy having a heart attack, and he says something out loud that Ricky can't be sure of what he said.
Okay.
Doesn't know what he said. He shouts something. He's like, I don't know. He said something out loud, but he can't be positive. And then Bernie plunged down. It's only 20 feet into the water.
Okay.
And then he appeared, according to Ricky, once he fell, he appeared to be swimming for a moment. And then he went under.
Oh.
And that was that. He didn't come back up.
Never saw him again?
But it's a river, so there's a current, and the current must have taken him, and he never popped back up again, and Ricky freaked out.
Wow.
Ricky said, holy shit. I mean, if you're 12 and the current just took your friend away and he's underwater, you're going to shit yourself. So Ricky turns and hauls ass a half mile to the nearest farmhouse. That's how it's rural. So think about the times
he didn't jump in
we're
after
talking.
him.
No, it's all the current in the river, and he didn't know where he went, I mean, he's not going to find him. He's 12. So he ran to the nearest farmhouse, which it's so tough because think about if someone needs medical attention, you got to run a half mile to the nearest farmhouse. Then they got to call. You got to hope they have a phone. Then they call. And then you got to wait for someone to drive all the way out there. So
in a 1960s car, Jesus,
you're in a lot of shit. Yeah, you're in some shit here. So they call the sheriff, the people at the farmhouse, and they quickly form a posse to search the river downstream from the bridge.
Shit.
Hey, everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you about the safest sponsor ever, Simply Safe. Absolutely. These people will keep you safe. It's amazing. You know that every 26 seconds a burglary takes place in the United States, according to the FBI. That means that by the time this podcast is over, dozens and dozens of homes will have been targeted, ransacked. God knows what happens here. So protect your home before it's too late with Simply Safe proactive security system. Simply Safe helps stop threats before they even have a chance to break in. Named Best Home Security System by U.S. News and World Report 5 years in a row. And by us for about the last 8 years as well. If you trust us, believe me, you want Simply Safe. So visit simplysafe.com/small to claim 50% off a new system with professional monitoring plan and your first month free. That's simplysafe.com/small. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Now back to the show.
This show, Small Town Murder, is brought to you by BetterHelp. Get yourself some therapy, everybody. Honestly, here. We often hear about, red flags that you should avoid. Hey, that's a lot of a thing. It's become a real phrase now, real cliche. But why don't you focus also, you look at green flags in friends and partners. Look for good things as well.
Right.
And maybe you're not sure what that looks like, though. Therapy can help you figure that out. What are positive things? What are the green flags? And then you can practice them in your relationship. It's absolutely a fact. And so, honestly, we absolutely are huge advocates for this. It really, really helps. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable. It's convenient. They serve over 5 million people worldwide. You can access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists, wide ranges of specialties there. Here's the coolest part. You're not getting along with your therapist, you're just not feeling it, you can switch at any time, no extra charge.
Wow.
The thing is, they want you to get help. That's it. And you can do it with BetterHelp. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/smalltownmurder today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
So they searched this, and the river's moving pretty fast, too. And they keep searching for him, and they can't find him. It's hard. They can't find him. So it's crazy. He, was a kid who was going to school in Manhattan. He lived there, and they're just playing on the bridge with his friend. Mm-hmm. And the first report came in about 3 p.m. Sunday. That's when the sheriff's deputies showed up, and they had a water rescue unit of the sheriff's posse, because there's a lot of water activities around there, so they have a special unit for that. Highway patrolmen came, volunteer searchers came. I mean, all hands on deck. There's a missing 13-year-old that went there. They put a net across the river at Logan, Montana. Yeah. They just put one across the river to
catch everything.
Just catch anything that goes by.
Wow.
And the search has been between the Logan and the Nixon Bridge is where they're searching there. They found his glasses in the water.
Oh, wow.
They described they found the glasses in knee-deep water near the bridge. So, but not him.
Near the bridge he went in at?
Well, the bridge he went in on, yeah. So, it's a wire net they put across about 5 miles downstream is what they did here. They set up searchlights on the shore, and all the volunteers sat there all night, staring at the water, waiting to see something.
Hoping we catch him in the net.
Searchlights. No Bernie. Nothing.
Oh, no.
Just can't find him. So they obviously hadn't found him yet, but at this point they're presuming that he's probably drowned.
Yeah.
If he goes in the water, doesn't pop back up, he's probably not having a malt somewhere. He's probably,
He didn't get out the river a couple miles down and say, I'll wait for him here.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the casino for a while. I'm bored. I doubt that's
Mom
what
will
happened.
find me there.
Yeah, she'll know what's up. It's all good. So the local parish priest conducted a memorial and a big mass for him and everything else and all this shit. And they haven't even, that's a few days later. There wasn't a lot of Catholics here. So there's one little Catholic church that was kind of tucked away, hey, it was different back then. And then, but the whole town showed up anyway, though, even though they weren't Catholic, and kind of looked a little bit askew at the Catholics back then, too.
Sure.
A lot of people showed up. Bernie's father would walk miles up and down the riverbank every night. Jesus. Days are going by, and that's what he does all night. He walks up and down the riverbank with a flashlight, looking for his kid. I mean, who wouldn't? You know what I mean? I would do that too. Yeah. What else are you going to do? Go sit home?
Yeah, I know where he's not.
Exactly. He's not in his room. So men in boats dragged the channel with no luck. I mean, this is everything. They said everybody, all the Manhattan high school, every kid in the high school all got in and canoed all the way around and looked around for him. And this was everybody in town that was able-bodied was looking for this kid. And it's just all anybody was talking about. He was in junior high, and all the kids were talking about it, and they're asking his friend about it, what happened, and newspapers talking to his friend, and, the kid's traumatized from the whole thing. So they said they understand. It's funny because they talked a lot about in the newspapers that kids back then, and especially in Montana and where a lot of cattle and things like that, they get death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've seen that. That happens all the time.
Yeah, but not a lot of 13-year-olds get killed.
Right,
that's a different story. So it's a little weird for them. So this goes on for 3 weeks. This boy just disappears. With
the most frightening, questionable circumstances of a kid grabs his chest. He shouldn't have a heart attack at 13.
Oh, Jesus, too much fucking, I shouldn't have had all those Egg McMuffins in the morning. He's 13.
I knew Nesquik was bad. I just kept drinking it.
I keep telling her, stop with the butter. You're going to kill me. Jesus Christ. So I don't understand it. So 3 weeks later, finally, on a Wednesday night, Bernie ends up in the wire net.
They caught him 5 miles down. How long? 4 days?
3 weeks later.
Oh, Jesus.
3 weeks. So he must have been caught on something in there. under the water, and then maybe it rained, and as we know, the water will flow, and then it moved, and then he ended up in the net 3 weeks later.
The worst way. Oh, shit.
Find your kid who's been in the water for 3 weeks in a net. That is
terrible.
Horrific. So they pull him out of the water,
and
they bring him into, a medical facility and have him looked over, an autopsy, and they see that his wristwatch stopped at precisely 3:20 p.m.
Wow.
Probably they see when it's still on his wrist. An autopsy showed, though, that he'd been shot.
He was not. There was no heart attack.
No, he was
holding his wound.
Shot through the heart with a small caliber, probably a .22, they said.
Wow.
Yes.
Sniped on the bridge.
Sniped off the bridge, hitting the... I mean, no one knew they were going to be there.
Right.
There's no way anybody could have set up to...
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing. It's crazy. No one can understand it. Like, you'd have to have a guy who just happened to be... Somebody just happened to have a gun pointing at the bridge, and then, a kid's climbing up. I'll shoot him real quick. It just doesn't make any sense.
And got him in a way that he would fall off the bridge rather than, crumple into a heap right there.
Yeah. Yeah, he was standing there. So they sent the bullet for ballistics testing in Washington. You have the FBI look it over and everything, because they didn't really have the facilities up there. It's the 60s.
60s, yeah.
Hardly anybody did, unless, probably...
the 60s in Manhattan, Montana.
Yeah. There's probably New York, Los Angeles. There's probably 8 cities that had ballistics testing back then that could do it quickly.
They just got TV.
Yeah, they're like, oh, man, this is crazy. Lucy's funny. I know it was 15 years ago that she came on, but shit, I'll tell you what, this is pretty funny.
She really gets into trouble.
Every time, boy. That Ricky spanks her. That's funny, boy. I'll tell you what. So they send the bullet for ballistics testing, and nothing of value comes out of that, though.
Sure.
So they bury him, and they don't know what the hell happened. They don't know what happened. Everybody's confused.
Wow.
People everywhere in town, at the cafe, at the bar, anywhere where people gather, that's all they're talking about is the theories of what the hell happened here. How did this happen? They said
you can't lean on Stray because it hit him in the fucking heart. That's on purpose.
Well, also they said that there's never any murders here, but it also wasn't hunting season. They said if it was hunting season, then maybe, just because the odds, who knows, they're astronomical, but it could have hit him just right. I mean, that happens. So
in the fucking heart, that's on purpose.
Yeah, they said maybe that finally everybody came to the conclusion that he must have been killed by an errant bullet from someone who sucks at shooting, either at a shooting range or someone trying to shoot a prairie dog from a distance and missed it in the angle of it and ended up going off.
That's wild.
That's what they all figured, because they said, well, it's not like someone was waiting. I'm going to wait all day in case a kid climbs up on a girder and then I'll shoot him. Like, who the fuck knows when that's going to happen? It's strange. So they said, who knows? They said the guy who did it probably doesn't even know he did it. He has no fucking clue, probably. So, dumb accident, things happen. Oh, well. You know what I mean? Poor kid. Damn, that poor family. That's on. Everybody moves on.
Wow.
Yep. They say, oh, well, what are you going to do?
And a man has to go about his life saying, my son's dead, probably from an errant bullshit. What?
Probably. He was hit rather than a prairie dog, I believe, is what he could say.
And he's got to go to bed at night thinking that.
Yeah, that's all they have. He has every night he walked up and down the riverbank, and now he knows while he was doing that, his son was in the water, probably in front of him at some point, and he couldn't find him. These are the things that would eat you alive as a parent. You know what I mean?
May have walked past him.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
That would eat you alive as a parent.
Absolutely.
So now they get to sit here and have really no real explanation, just a basic, anecdotal, this may have happened type of shit. So now we go to early May 1968. So that was 67. Yeah. This is the next year. Okay. And let's talk about another young man here, Michael Rainey, Raney.
Okay.
Michael Rainey, he's 12. He is at the Headwater Campground here. Yeah. Remember that name, the Headwater Campground. He's a 6th grader, and he's out on a Boy Scout trip.
Yeah, catching frogs.
Getting knot tying badges and fending off Scout Master badges. That's a good one when you get that one.
The butthole defense badge.
Yeah, that's a good one. You got to have that one. So there's about 200 Boy Scouts around.
Yeah.
Hopefully all earning that badge.
Yeah. The welded lips badge. That's the good one.
There's a documentary on Netflix right now that's it's disturbing. It's about
breaks my fucking heart.
All the documented shit over the years, all the lawsuits they settled, all that stuff. It's
the Boy Scouts are near and dear to my heart, and it fucking crushes me that any piece of shit preyed on boys in that organization. It drives me bananas.
It's like sports. It's the same thing. Could be great for a kid unless the guy's an abusive guy. Right. You know, it's the same shit as we found
Gymnastics
out.
for girls.
I was just going to say, it's gymnastics. It's the Olympic stuff that Mandy Maloon went and testified about. It's all that stuff.
Destroys me at my fucking core.
Yeah. When kids are trying to do something good and that's going to help them, and then somebody
and they're putting
ruins that. Yeah,
the trust.
They take that trust and flush it down a toilet along with the kids' everything else.
Dignity, Jesus.
So he's with 200 other kids.
Okay, yeah, he's safe.
This is where Lewis and Clark discovered that the Jefferson, Madison, and Gallatin rivers merged to become the Missouri. This is where they said, oh, shit, that's where the Missouri comes from.
But look at this.
Look at this. 3 rivers going into one.
That's why it's so full. There's 3 of them, you guys.
Damn it. Guys, can you believe this shit? So the Scouts had 2-man pup tents that were arrayed in line, very close. It was like Fire Festival, basically. They were on top of each other. It's
FEMA tents.
Yeah, it's FEMA tent time. So they're all in these tents in close ranks. It's a 2-acre grassy area, and the tents are no more than 3 feet from each other.
Okay, yeah.
That close. On purpose. Yeah. So it's about midnight. All the kids are finally to bed. Imagine being responsible to get 200 11 to 13-year-olds to get to bed.
To go to sleep
away
from their parents? I don't have to listen to you.
Wow. That's what I'm saying. He's got his tent mate here is Kenny Summers, who's 11 years old. Okay. And so everybody likes him, and they're having a fun time. And they finally get put to bed, and I'm sure they're in there, flashlights, reading comic books or titty mags or something. Yeah. I don't know.
I was going to say hand puppets on Jesus.
Hopefully. Yeah.
12 I guess at 12 we were pretty fucked up by then.
Someone whipped out a Playboy at 12.
I want to see that.
Let me see that shit. I want to take a look. At least I'm curious here. So their tent is only 30 feet from the Scoutmaster. So that's not very far at all. So there's no real hijinks. As the tents go farther out, the kids get to fuck around a little more. But if you're in one of the tents in a closer area to the adults, then you kind of have to be quiet because they can hear you. So the troop leader ordered all the scouts to the tents. Everybody went. And the kids are tired, actually. Michael and Kenny are tired. Yeah. They were riding horses and doing all sorts of shit all day.
Cutting down dead trees, gathering firewood, all that
Who
shit.
knows? Yeah, looking at berries. I don't know what they do in the Boy Scouts. So
it's a lot.
They had their sleeping bags are on rubber air mattresses. That's comfortable.
Oh, wow.
Not bad. Wow, that's some glamour shit there. That's
howdy do.
Yeah, wow, that's
good
the
for
Ritz-Carlton
you.
of the
glamping,
field. Wow, not bad. Jesus. Their heads were toward the back of the tent.
Yeah.
And they fell asleep pretty quick because they were exhausted.
Yeah.
So it rained a little bit that night, couple of drizzles that night, but nobody didn't wake anybody up or anything like that. Everybody slept well. There's a passing train. The kids slept through it, all that kind of shit. So Kenny Summers, Michael's bunkmate, or I should say tent mate, he wakes up at about 5:30 the next morning, as soon as daybreak happens.
Early rise. Yeah, once that sun comes up, thethere's nothing you can do. You're awake. No.
And it's hot in that tent, too. The sun hits that tent, and it makes it hot, too. And so it's just starting to get sunrise outside. He sits there, and he's waking up. And you know you are when you wake up, you're groggy. And he's like, oh, shit, I'm in a tent. That's right, I'm here. Looks over. I had a lot last night. Drank a bunch last night. Yeah. Who's this next to me? Hey.
Too much Ovaltine. I'll never do it again.
Man, Jesus, I'm hungover from that shit. So he looks over and he sees Michael's face is covered in blood.
Covered in blood?
Blood all over him. So he went, oh, shit. And I guess he had a friend that got bloody noses all the time, and that happened in the night sometimes, and he would bleed and roll over on it. He'd wake up with blood on his nose. So he was like, oh, shit, he probably has a bloody nose or something.
Jesus.
So he was waking. He's like, hey, Michael. He's trying to wake him up, and he can't wake him up.
Yeah.
So he starts yelling for the troop leaders, hey, help, 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 help.
Yeah.
So he tells the troop leader here that he nothing happened. I didn't wake up at any point in the night or anything like that, and I just wake up and there's this. So they can't wake him up either. They try, well, we'll get in there. I'm sure you shake like a pussy. We'll do it.
Yeah.
You know? So then they drag him out of his tent feet first after that. They pull him out, like, just dragged him out of the tent. They pull off his sleeping bag, unzip it, and pull it away, and his sweatshirt's all bloody, too.
Oh, boy.
Michael's breathing.
Oh, shit, he's alive.
He's alive. He's breathing heavily. He had vomited on himself as well in the night.
Sure, yeah.
So what the hell's going on here? At that point, as one guy was trying to help him put his head down on something on a pillow, he found a big lump above his right ear.
Oh.
Big lump and dirt in his hair. So they're like, what the fuck? So they asked Kenny, they're like, did you guys go out of the tent and fuck around and like wrestle and stuff in the dirt last night? And he's like, no, I didn't fucking win. We fell asleep at midnight. I just woke up. I don't know what you're talking about. So Michael at this point mumbles something incoherent. Just blah, 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 blah. They can't understand what he's saying. So the troop leaders go, okay, obviously this is
we got a problem. Yeah.
So they throw him in the car and they drive him to the nearest phone, which is in Three Forks.
How far is Three Forks?
Who knows here?
Yeah.
But I do know after that they called a hospital and said, we're bringing a kid in we don't know what's wrong with him, so get ready for this kid. And then they went to the hospital in Bozeman, which is a half hour away.
Holy shit.
So time has gone by, and God knows how. We have no idea when this happened in the middle of the night, how many hours he's been bleeding and sick. So the doctors, once they get him into the hospital, the doctors examine him, and they find a small stab wound under his right armpit.
What?
A small, very little stab wound under his armpit. The lump on his head said that he's been hit with a fucking very small but hard object and bashed in the head with it. And stabbed. So that's interesting. Back at the camp, the deputies, now they're investigating this because it looks like somebody did something to this kid. They find the back of the tent. Remember, their heads are toward the back of the tent.
Right.
The back of the tent had been sliced open. And it looks like somebody may have reached in and stabbed him through the sleeping bag.
Wow.
Just like sliced the tent open and just stabbed him through the sleeping bag and took off and hit him in the head with something, which makes no sense.
The head trauma's why he threw up, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly why. So on the right side of the tent, which was pitched near a parking lot, was slashed near the rear from almost the top to the bottom as well.
Wow.
They said a second slash was made in the tent. Apparently, he was the only one who sustained a wound in there. They said it's possible the act could have been the result of vandalism, the tent. And they might have stabbed. The cop said they didn't know anything at the time, so they said they might have cut the tent as a vandalism thing and stabbed him by accident on the other side, like they stabbed the knife through to cut it, and he was over there. But then how do you explain the head wound?
Montana cops are so fast to try to turn this shit into an accident.
It must have been an accident. Boys will be boys. Because they're thinking, who's going to come in amongst 300, 200 people and adults are right there and murder a child? Try to murder a child. Like, that makes no sense at all. Why pick him?
Right.
There's 100 tents. There's no reason to pick him, too. That just doesn't make any sense. So the sheriff asked anyone with information to call and, help us because we're pretty useless here. So nobody... Nobody had seen anyone moving around the night before other than a few scouts on the other side goofing off.
Okay.
They were nowhere near. They were never seen anywhere near here. So it doesn't make any sense. So they know there's been a knife now. There had to have been a knife. He's been stabbed.
Yeah.
None were found in the immediate area, like on the ground, discarded, thrown in a bush or anything. But they had all the knives that all the Boy Scouts had, which is every Boy Scout is always prepared. They always had a knife. So
they're Swiss Army.
Hundreds of knives they have to gather to test them all.
Yeah.
So they gather all the kids' knives, and over the next few weeks, they administer lie detector tests to every single kid and troop leader in the camp that night. Over 200 lie detector tests.
13-year-olds.
13-year-olds.
Yeah.
And all of their knives are tested. And everybody passes their lie detector tests, and none of their knives come up with anything suspicious.
Jesus.
So they're like, okay, this is fucking weird now. So they're investigating reports that maybe young people who are not members of this scouting, party.
Sure.
They heard possibly there'd been young people in the area harassing the Boy Scouts earlier in the day. 17-year-olds, It's 67, smoking a joint, drinking beer, going, hey, you fucking pussies. Yeah, your mom told, nice outfit. Yeah,
Why don't you get out of here? We're trying to have fun.
Yeah, we're trying to have unprotected sex over here. Come on. Get out of here.
I'm trying to get my blowjob badge. Get out of here, kid.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my receiving blowjob badge. So they said that Michael's troop, this is how deep they're going, trying to figure it out. Michael's troop that day had won a trophy from another troop in a contest.
Oh.
So their theory is possibly maybe one of the losing scouts from the other troop was seeking revenge.
That's a vicious Boy Scout.
You lost a Boy Scout contest? In all these movies where there's like a camp and one camp versus the other camp, there was never a stabbing afterwards. No. Ever. The camp the camp of the cool kids would have more respect now, actually, for the
boxcar derby. Camp. You gotta get fucking street cred for this.
So strange. So they said, but this is so. They talked to the scout leaders and they said, we do these contests all the time. We do this stuff. It's like there's like 5. We did 5 of them that day. Like there'd be no scouts left if people were killing each other over this.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, they said nobody ever even gets upset to the point of like it's not even that big of a deal. It's never ended up even in a fist fight. So
never.
So someone reported hearing a little boy yell in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But they don't know what the little boy said. They said it was either help, help, or Dale, Dale.
Oh.
Not sure. And they're not sure how old the voice was either. So they heard a voice in the middle of the night say something they didn't know, which is really not helpful information.
Singing a Beatles song.
So they said, there's only one person left to look at.
Yeah.
And that's little Kenny Summers here, or his little 11-year-old
vicious little bastard.
It's got to be him. He had a weapon. He had a knife. He was sleeping next to him. He had all the opportunity. He's the guy. But they said, why would this little 11-year-old Boy Scout stab his tent mate? That would make no sense.
Why would an 11-year-old cut his own tent open?
And they said, too, what kind of a diabolical little fuck would... He's in 5th grade, this kid. Would stab his tent mate up, bash him in the head, carve up the tent, then go back to just lie down, wait till dawn, and then pretend to find him and yell for help. This is like been married for 20 years behavior.
Right. Night, motherfucker.
Yeah. This is, I'm going to lose everything, and
that's
I'm not taking this anymore.
That's an inside trader thing.
Yeah, this is certainly not that. So they're like, that doesn't make sense. And the kid passed a lie detector, and he seems like a nice kid, and he doesn't have any... it's not like, he has behavioral problems where,
and he coughed up his knife.
He coughed up his knife, and he has nothing to hide. He's been totally forthright. So they don't know what to do. So this hits the newspapers, and people, one thing people like to do in small towns, they all have a theory, and they all feel like they want to tell you it. So what that theory is.
But you get a group of children in a camp scenario, one of them comes up murdered. Oh boy, is that like the most frightening thing on the planet to these people?
Jesus Christ.
They all do this.
That's what I mean. And the people back then would send their kids out and expect them not to come back with holes in them.
Right.
Right. In the late 60s, that was go outside, don't come back till the sun comes out. Nobody expected their kid. People hitchhiked and thought it was safe back then. And this was a fucking different time. We can't even put it in perspective.
Trusted a stranger blindly.
And especially back up here in the middle of nowhere, this isn't Brooklyn. This is fucking Manhattan, Montana.
You're right. It's not Brooklyn. Manhattan. It's Manhattan. It's beautiful.
So that's what I was getting to. I said, this is Manhattan, Montana. This is not. So they're probably 20 years, back as far as all that goes, too. Yeah. So think about it. It's probably considered very safe. But tips start pouring in now. Pouring in these tips. One guy saw a green. Michael's still alive, by the way. He's holding on.
At the hospital.
Oh,
my God.
One witness said he saw a green Studebaker. Yeah. Another witness said he saw a 1959 Ford. And another guy said he saw an old Jeep. So that's not helpful.
Obviously unreliable. Those
you
are
can't
all three You could,
Very different cars. Those are completely different cars. You can't confuse one for the other, ever. So, not
That's
helpful.
Fascinating, yeah.
Yeah. Another one, people saw a guy and girl drinking beer. Mm-hmm. Okay. Another person said they saw the night before in the area a guy with a knife on his belt.
Okay.
Which is every guy in Montana, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. How big was it? Like a Crocodile Dundee or like a pocket knife?
Yeah.
Another one called in and said that she has a boyfriend and she's afraid he did it because, quote, he hates kids. So I don't like kids. I'm going to go find 200 of them and then stab one of them covertly and then run away.
Yes, I'm dating a man named Anthony Jeselnik, and I'm afraid that he might be a murderer.
I was going to say, if it was Chris D'Elia, you'd be like, he loves kids.
What a hilarious phone call.
Oh, that's fun as shit. One person reported that one of the troop leaders was, quote, peculiar.
Okay.
Don't know what that means. I saw him reading a book without pictures in it, and I'm tired of that shit. It wasn't about ranching or ranching-related activities, and I'm worried. None of these people, they all had alibis or past lie detectors, or nobody saw anything else, nobody knew anything else, nobody knows shit. So a few days go by, and Michael dies.
Oh, Jesus.
He dies from, think about that, a small stab wound and a blow to the head, 3 days in the hospital, and he dies.
The hospital can't save him over a 3-day period. That's some bad wounds.
That's bad. At the autopsy,
suffering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. 3 days. He wasn't really conscious for those 3 days either.
Jesus.
The coroner found the single knife wound. It was a small one. The slit's only an inch wide.
Wow.
Not a butcher knife, not a big horror slasher movie knife, and it hadn't punctured his lung either. So originally, they thought it must be his lung.
Bleed.
Yeah, it just kept bleeding. They said the wound might have been inflicted with a pocket knife or by a very tentative poke with a larger knife that didn't go in very far. But they said that knife wound is not what killed him by any stretch of the imagination.
The blow to the head.
The blow to the head, they found extensive brain damage from the blow to the head.
God.
Whatever did it, it was a quarter-size wound, very small lump. That's what I mean. That's why they were like, it's super small, only a quarter-size wound on the side of his skull, but it hadn't fractured the skull either, but caused a concussion so violent that it, from the autopsy, it said it literally killed a fist-sized chunk of his cerebrum, turning it into pudding, basically.
What a fucking puncture!
It's a quarter-sized thing.
It's a puncture, or is it just? It's
no.
just pressure
lump
on the skull.
Yeah, like a ball-peen hammer or something like that's a small thing. So the cause of death was not a stab wound, which is what everyone expected, but
just
a
a
smashed
whack on
brain.
the head. Oh my God!
Smashed brain. Whew,
what the
pretty,
fuck?
Yeah, this is crazy shit, right? I don't know. Yeah, this kid's just sleeping in his tent.
Internally in his head, his brain just died.
His brain just died. Yeah, and he died after 3 days. So this is the second weird death of a child.
Yeah.
Young boy around this same age in Manhattan, which is
very too much.
Strange. And this is the Bernie Pullman thing. You can go, okay, that's an accident, a prairie dog, somebody sucks at shooting. Nobody accidentally smashed this kid in the head and stabbed him, cut up his tent. Nobody did that.
Yeah, they missed the prairie dog real hard.
This is super on purpose. Yeah, they were trying to stab it from across the street or something. So they said that everybody, again, when they gather at the town centers, they all decide. I love how the town comes to a conclusion, and then they all go, all right, I guess that's what happened, and walk away.
Go.
Prairie dog shooter for Michael. For him, they figured horseplay gone too far.
Are you shitting me?
One of the kids, and they smashed him on the side of the head, and that's
in a
all.
slashed up tent.
And they said also these shitty cops and deputies messed up the investigation by screwing stuff up, and they probably didn't lost evidence or didn't find it. It was probably just kids messing around, and they haven't found the right evidence because they're stupid. That's literally what people said.
I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah, that's it. They said that's it. Oh well, no, shrug. What you gonna do? Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit about Sono Bello. You know, the most known secret with celebrities and influencers and all these famous people is so many of them have had lipo. They've had lipo, whether it's a little touch-up here or a total makeover.
Yeah.
Nobody has a perfect body. That's the thing.
No.
They may look like it on TV, but there's things that help that. Absolutely. Lipo now has changed, and Sono Bello's been at the forefront with using LAL technology and getting those beautiful and natural outcomes for each person. Looking real natural. Our friends at Sono Bello are offering their best deal. You're now included in their winter savings event, but appointments are limited, so please get on this. Sono Bello doctors are masters in micro laser fat removal, a brilliant technique that removes stubborn fat permanently wherever your problem areas are. Tummy, love handles, thighs, arms, it's gone in one comfortable visit. Eating healthy and workouts are great. Keep doing that, but if you want to lose that stubborn fat in one visit, check out Sono Bello. Save big during their winter savings event. Schedule your free consultation now at sonobello.com/smalltownmurder. That's sonobello.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit more about our stylish friends at Quince. That's right, let's go elevate your styles, people.
Yeah.
Get it going, look good out there, and you can do it now without breaking your wallet, without breaking the bank, because at Quince, you can get high-end, versatile pieces at prices we can all actually afford, which is very nice. You want to get good stuff that lasts and it's good, and they have quality stuff that's very affordable, and you can do like we did, upgrading our stuff here, well, still being a very reasonable price. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. It's all quality stuff. You're going to love it. Trust us, it looks good. And I've got the leather jacket. It's a very high-quality item. Real nice, soft leather. Yeah. Jimmie's got his linen pants he's rocking.
Yeah, they're terrific.
Come on, be like us. Be fashionable. Get in there with Quince. Indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/smalltownmurder for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/smalltownmurder to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit about a very cool place, Thrive Market. Yes, we are both looking to get into the healthy swing this year. The problem is I don't know what's in everything, and I don't know if even I'm qualified to even read the labels to know if that's good or that's bad. Right. There's chemicals in things, and there's things floating around. I don't know what I'm doing out there. One of my favorite features, and I know you were talking to me about this, is the Healthy Swap Scanner in the Thrive Market app. Yeah, it's simple. You scan any item, and it'll instantly suggest a cleaner, healthier grocery alternative, it's great. Amazing. Yeah. That's great. Thrive Market also takes the guesswork out of finding these safe, healthy foods. For example, like I'm trying to get my protein intake up for energy. I'm always moving around. I need stuff, and I love that you can filter their site by the high protein options. Nice. It's very cool, and you can personalize this portion, and you can put filters on it, and get ready. You should be ready for a junk-free start to 2025. Get ready for it and head to thrivemarket.com/smalltownmurder and get 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/smalltownmurder, thrivemarket.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
So, June 24th, 1973 now.
5 years later.
5 years go by, quiet times in Manhattan.
Wow.
Okay? 5 years. And think about that time from 68 to 73. Yeah. What's going on at that time, too, in the country. The Vietnam War going on, and that's when the bulk of the people are sent there and killed there and all that kind of shit.
What's happening, James?
All sorts of stuff. What happened from 68 to 73 in this country? Super quiet. Real laid back.
Time.
Yeah, nobody was shot and assassinated. We didn't have any wars. We had no problems. And Watergate was just as secure as it could be, and everything was good. So June 24th, 1973, the Yeager family here. They're these nice family here. They're going out. This is William and Marietta Yeager. Okay. And they have 5 kids.
Yikes.
And they're heading out with 4 of them.
Okay.
That one's a problem. Yeah. It's probably a
It's the
baby, I would
youngest.
assume. Yeah, it's probably a baby. Leave that with the grandparents or something. They set out on June 17th. They are, by the way, from Detroit.
Okay.
So not from around here.
Okay.
So on June 17th, 1973, they set out in their mustard and white Chevy van. God, it's
You
1973.
betcha. Yeah.
That's vanning everybody right there. With a red trailer for a month's vacation out west.
They're driving
Out
for
west
Holy
to spend a month in
shit.
Montana. That's the goal
Okay,
here with the kids,
yeah.
and we're going to fish, and we're going to see the outdoors. And people used to do this back in the
Yeah.
day.
A
Now
month
they
in a
can't,
van,
but
though?
That's a lot. A month in a van with 4 kids.
Fucking wow.
Or go to work. I'll go to work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will work all day, every day, rather than
Yeah.
spend a month in a van with 4
Yeah.
kids. Fuck that.
I'll work on the railroad all the live long before I
All
do
the live
this.
long day. Yep. I'll build the railroad.
A month.
Fuck that. So a month. So the relatives said they reached here and they met up with Marietta's parents, who all met them out there. Mr. and Mrs. William Lipton, and he's they're retired and they've been traveling around the country, and they said, oh yeah, we'll meet you up in Montana and all that sort of deal here. William Yeager is a tool and die maker.
Okay.
He's taking his month vacation. All the kids, he is employed by McDonough Engineering Company of Detroit, and this trip has been planned since last fall.
This is everything to them.
This is 6 months in the making, and they mapped it out. And yeah,
This
they have
isn't
the
for
whole
the
thing.
kids. This is for Dad.
Oh yeah, they got the family truckster, and this
Yeah.
is vacation here. It's exactly what it is, National
Detroit to
Lampoon
Montana.
style. So now the woman who lives near them in Detroit, Kathleen Rudberg, said her children are the ones going to feed their hunting dogs, Bo and Otto, while they're out of town. And they said the Yeagers bought 2 new tents, 2 motorcycles, hiking boots for the whole family for the trip. I mean, they've been preparing for this trip.
Wow.
This is everything. She said it's normal for them to go on trips, not for this long, but she said they go out all the time hunting or just tramping through the woods.
Okay.
They're outdoorsy type people here. She said that the 2 tents they bought had been set up in the Yeagers' backyard for 2 weeks before the trip, and that all the neighborhood children took turns sleeping in them and roasting marshmallows and pretending they were camping.
Awesome.
So yeah, they're having fun. That's so much fun. That's good
Yeah.
shit. Their youngest of the children they do take. So maybe their oldest they left home. He's probably, he's like, yeah, you guys go on. I'll be fine here. I'll hold down the fort here. He's calling people up. He's like, bring the weed over.
They are gone for a month.
Holy shit, I'm going to finger everybody. This is amazing. That's what a teenage boy would think. So their youngest is 7 years old.
Yeah.
And that's Susie, little Susie Yeager.
Okay.
And she's gonna about to enter 2nd grade next year. So that's the baby here. And their oldest son, their oldest son comes. So I don't know what kid doesn't come, but they have their oldest and the youngest. So I don't know what's
Maybe
going
it's
on
the
here.
oldest of who came with them?
I don't know. It's their oldest son. Anyway, his wife, I guess, Yeager, said his wife, and their oldest son, Dan, were sleeping in the van on Monday morning. So they're sleeping in the van. The grandparents were asleep in their trailer. They had their own trailer.
Okay.
And then they had the kids sleeping in a tent right next to them on their own, because the kids wanted to sleep in a tent, because that's the fun of camping for them.
Yep.
Until you're older and you go, Jesus, I need a bed. This hurts.
I just did it, and I'm never doing it again. It's over.
No shit. At 4:30 a.m., they find Susie gone.
Oh?
By the way, they're camping at the Headwater Campground,
Oh.
the same exact place Michael Rainey disappeared from.
The Boy Scout camp.
The Boy Scout camp. They're actually right in the same area that the Boy Scouts were camping, as a matter of fact, too. Like right there. Same exact place. So Susie is gone out of her tent at 4:30. She's 7. They go, maybe who knows what a 7-year-old would wander off to do, and she feels safe. But they are a little bit worried when they find a big circular slash in the tent alongside her sleeping bag.
Oh, boy.
So that doesn't look good at all.
Yeah.
Obviously. They said that they talked to the other kids. She had talked briefly with an older sister about 2 hours before a train whistle had woken them up, and that's when they found she was missing. So they said somewhere between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., that's when she must have disappeared.
Enough camping.
Fuck camping.
Never.
Yeah. You need a tent that is
I
secure.
can't believe I did it.
like a car. You're
This
just going
is
out
so
going,
frightening.
I don't mind. You know what? This is perfect because I have there's no way to secure myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep, and there's no one, there's nothing close enough to even hear me scream. So this is great. This is perfect.
I've always
Seems risky to me.
I've always wanted to just serve up a murderer. You know what I mean?
That's
just
good.
Like in volleyball, just that soft touch. That's
Or
what
a
I'm
bear,
doing.
maybe. Or a bear, maybe. Whatever.
Anything that wants to destroy me, I'm just going to put it in this soft-coated fucking candy wrapper for them.
I'm just going to wrap myself in nylon and then sit in the middle of the woods like a fucking present.
And then I'm going to get good and fucking drunk, take a
Yeah.
Xanax, and pass right the fuck out
So
for
I
this thing.
definitely won't wake up.
What
That's
the
good.
fuck is happening? Why
You
do we
asked
do
me-
it at all?
Why you never gone camping, James? Well, you just described it. This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it.
I'm going to pollute my body in the woods for fun, and then I'm going to fall
Shit.
asleep.
Now, there was 4 kids in this tent, including her
Really?
two older brothers and her sister. So apparently they did bring all the kids. One
Yeah.
kid in the van, 4
Yeah.
kids in the tent. So
That's it.
and they're older too, so
Yeah.
it's so weird. They said a 20-inch hole had been cut in the tent with a razor or a very, very sharp knife. And then her sister Heidi, who was 12, found her gone when she woke up at 4. Her teddy bear and stuffed reindeer were on the ground outside.
Oh, God damn it.
That's fucking so sad right there. So police said that the Jaegers pitched their camp just a few yards from the exact spot where Michael Rainey was kidnapped.
Is
Or
that right?
was stabbed and bashed in
Yeah.
1968. It's right there. They're like, you are 10 feet from it, right there. So the sheriff put together a 15-person search party and said there's a strong possibility we have a kidnapping on our hands. Really? What made you think that?
Is it the fact that there was a kid here last night and there isn't one today?
You think she cut her way out and busted out like,
Fuck this reindeer and teddy bear, I'm out.
I'm out, bitch, threw him on the ground and fucking, joined the Navy? Like, what do they think she did? What's going on here? The Bozeman FBI office takes over direction of the search by the next day.
that's
They're like,
good, yeah.
we know what happened last time. We got this one here. So they search for Susan, for Susan here, and they think that she's been kidnapped from her campsite. The sheriff's deputies dragged the rivers again in case she might have been either someone killed her and dumped her in the water, or she wandered into the water, she ran away in the dark. We have no idea. It's just a mystery. So her great-grandma they talked to, she's 77 years old, and she said she got a call that was from her, grandkids to tell her that Susan was gone. And so she said, I wish I could do something, but you can't do anything. She describes Susan as a, quote, timid child who wouldn't just wander off. If she had to go, she would have awakened her sister.
Okay.
She's the baby of the family. I mean, a lot of times it's like that. A neighbor, the same neighbor who's watching the dogs, describes Susan as friendly, but she would never go anyplace by herself. She's a normal kid, afraid of the dark, and so on. She's a 7-year-old. I mean, she's not going to wander off by herself. So they said that, this is 2 days go by now. No Susan. The FBI and sheriff's deputies continue their search, and they want to put a special lookout at gas stations, they said. Look out at gas stations, because they said that they've received quite a few calls about children who look like the Jaeger child, who look like Susan. The FBI's got a ton of calls, but none of them have panned out so far. They said they're going back over their clues a second time to make sure they haven't overlooked anything, and all sorts of shit like that. But they say that the FBI set up a nationwide alert at gas stations for the child with all the gas station clerks. They send them all a sheet or whatever.
I guess that's a good point, because at least, if somebody's got her, he's got to get fucking gas at some point.
Exactly. The family member said they figured if she were taken in a car, the driver would have to stop for gas.
At some point, yeah.
At some point. And you probably take the 7-year-old in with you so she doesn't run away outside or start yelling at people that she's been kidnapped.
Right.
So they search. It's an intensive search, and they failed to turn up any trace of the girl here in a few days. They can't do it. The FBI had planes, boats, people, searchers all around Three Forks, the headwaters of the Missouri River. The spokeswoman for the FBI said 6 agents and sheriff's deputies are working 14 to 16 hours a day checking out any and all information, too. So they have like an office squad that's following up all the leads. They have people on the outside. It's a 7-year-old girl.
Yeah.
You don't get any more, hey, let's all fucking get on hands on deck than a 7-year-old girl. I mean, that's the most defenseless thing you could think of as a small child.
Right.
It's scary. So they're possible suspects. What are you going to do here? Check it out. So they're looking around. They compile a lengthy list of what they call known sex criminals, which I love how they used to call them that.
Sex criminals.
Sex criminals sounds way funnier than sex offenders.
Yeah.
Sex offenders sounds legal and dirty. Sex criminal sounds like they always have their dick out. Just always. They're just jerking it.
The UK still calls them sex pests, and I enjoy that
That's
as well.
fun, too.
That's
I like
pretty
that,
good.
too.
Yeah.
I like that, too. They also use the word molested to mean, if someone annoys you somewhere, you've been molested. They've been molesting you, which is fun, too, which is one of the definitions. But
It is annoying.
It's fun. So they get through all this list of known sex criminals in western Montana since 1958. So for the last 15 years, they're going over the list. More than 100 names on 11 sheets of paper they get that come out. So they range from peeping Toms to fucking literally trench coat opening flashers, people like that, to rapists and child molesters. I mean, it's the whole range of scum in one place you can find. That's a fun folder. So
here's your scum folder.
Yeah, here, we got your folder of scum right there. You might want to put some gloves on while you look through that. It's dirty.
The crazier part, I mean, I get that's a logical conclusion to come to look at that. But
that's what they would do today too.
Yeah. But the two before, if they're even drawing a link, there was zero sex involved. Oh, they're not.
They're not even.
They're just looking
considering.
For who
they're
would
like,
possibly,
can you fucking believe from the same place they disappeared? That's all they say.
Wow.
So they can't find it, and that's the first thing they do now too, or even for years and years. I remember the David Simon homicide book, LaTanya Wallace, that case, which is a crazy case if you look that up. She was murdered, and she was an 11-year-old girl, and the first thing they did was say, round up every sex offender in this fucking neighborhood. Anybody with if they've ever touched a tit out of turn, they're coming in and we're fucking talking to them. It's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
That shit escalates.
Yeah.
So they get all these. One of the people was an elderly former Episcopal minister.
Yeah.
He was a descendant from a Boston Tea Party revolutionary.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then shamed the family.
And then was a little creepy.
Yeah.
Another was a World War II Purple Heart recipient.
Really?
Which is hero until he was busted following young girls around.
Gross.
Which is not heroic. Another was what they called a, quote, dirty talking 12-year-old boy. Who made obscene phone calls to his neighbor ladies. Basically, Bart Simpson is who they have here. Did he have real spiky hair? Rode a skateboard all the time? Slingshot in his back
shorts
pocket?
A lot?
He's a cowabunga. Did you hear out of him? Okay, that's the guy.
Yeah.
So, and then there's another guy who'd been busted for fondling women's clothes at a local department store. Not women. He just goes in and feels up the clothes and rubs them on himself.
Is that illegal?
If you rub it on your dick, anything's illegal.
That's illegal. Yeah, right.
I think you have to buy something before you rub it on your dick, correct?
I don't know. I think I don't know.
You can't in the 60s in Montana, you couldn't just walk into a woman's clothing store and rustlers and cowboy boots, pick up a dress and start rubbing it on your cock. I feel like they'd call somebody for you back then. Now they probably wouldn't care. It'd be fine. But back then, that's aberrant behavior.
I don't know. It doesn't feel illegal, but it feels
doesn't
illegal.
Feel illegal. But they wrote it down and they got back with it. It's hard to make a connection between rubbing a dress on your dick and fucking cutting a hole in a tent and stealing a 7-year-old girl out of it. But if it was long enough ago, those things do escalate, and you never know. Because flashers turn into, flashers turn into
they turn into
bad things
people
later.
Yeah.
So who knows? But nothing panned out. I was really rooting on the dress guy doing something. It's a long shot. One landlord who had a tenant here suspected this mother and son who'd left their apartment that he rented to them in shambles.
I know
a couple of dirtbags.
I didn't return
nothing to do with anything else.
Security deposit to these people. They did it.
Never. He didn't say because also they kidnapped a girl one time or the son. None of that. Just I know a couple of they left the place all dirty. They could, I mean, obviously they're capable of murder, I think.
There's a couple
15
people.
years ago. 15 years ago, they moved out of the apartment and left it in shambles.
Imagine being married to that man. He doesn't forget shit.
No, he's been holding a grudge for 15 years. He's gone through like 7 tenants in that apartment since then, and he just goes, those ones, sons of bitches, who left the oven all a mess with frozen pizza cheese stuck to the bottom of it. Those bastards.
Unbelievable. What a jump.
What a fucking jump.
Probably fucking murderers, these people.
They must be. Someone called up the FBI to go, I know who did it.
Oh?
It's my neighbor. He writes poetry about sex. Guilty!
Holy
In Montana,
shit.
they just considered that weird hippie behavior. You must be a kid fucking person.
He writes flowery shit about vaginas.
Flowery shit about beautiful things. A rancher told the FBI that the new owner of the next ranch over didn't know anything about cows. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
So obviously, he said he's obviously hiding something, probably a little girl.
Yeah.
So he bought the ranch. He planned this all out, bought a ranch, kidnapped a little girl to take to this ranch so he could put her there and pretend he's a rancher with cows. That's quite the...
All ranch, no cattle.
All ranch, no cattle. Another rancher said he suspected his neighbor because he's the type of guy who's not real clean and has, quote, junked cars all over the place.
Yeah.
See? I don't trust him.
Driving down the property value.
A circus worker snitched on a carny.
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm not believing either one of those people.
No.
Liar and liar. Fuck out of here. Matter of fact, you've done something, I'm sure.
Both of you have criminal records. Fuck you both. Get in the car.
Yeah. Oh my God. He said that this guy is a guy who could have done it because he stole my act.
So I know he's a known thief.
Yeah, he stole my act.
Yeah.
And then when we were in New Orleans, and he traveled through Montana this summer. So if he's an act thief, he's a hack, so obviously he's probably a murderer and a kidnapper as well.
Somebody arrest Carlo Mencia.
This is
immediately.
ASAP. This is just people settling beefs over time, and they're like, I want that guy to get arrested for stealing a 7-year-old girl. That'll learn him. I don't think he did it or nothing, but shit.
Carlos Mencia has been raping little girls across this country. If he steals a joke, he's a raping murderer.
Raping murderer. Wow. A woman at one point called saying that her ex-boyfriend who cheated on her had once told her that his prostitute mistress that he used to go to, that he once, he told her one time and then told this woman that he told her that he fantasized about sex with little girls.
Okay.
Which is not a good sign.
That will take serious.
But he hasn't been around in a long time, so.
Okay. Well.
But that's a guy who she knows.
We'll
a mother said her son, who used to be in a reformatory, he probably did it.
Why is that?
He was bad when he was a kid, even though he hasn't been around in years. Okay. But he could be back. She doesn't know. A 26-year-old lady, or I'm sorry, a 76-year-old woman reported that her foster brother had molested her when they were kids in Michigan in 1906.
Okay. So
he's in his 80s now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably out there on the lake kidnapping kids.
She said she lost track of him 20 years ago, but the cops should check out his 2 sons wherever they are because they're probably child molesters too because it runs in the family.
It's in the blood, yeah.
Yeah, okay. A hitchhiker told FBI agents that he took hitched a ride with a guy who bragged about being able to cut meat well because he's a butcher.
Right. Okay.
And that he had a bent toward bestiality, and that a well-honed boning knife could slice a camp tent like it was lace. Okay, that's something. At least there's a tent and a slice, and that all makes sense. They interviewed 26 workers on a railroad section crew who had come through the area at that time. They were in Chicago. They interviewed them. Interviewed college kids from Bozeman, fishermen, carpenters, ranchers, people who are pissed off at their exes, fucking people, anyone who was in an asylum in the last few years, anyone who's literally artists, because they're
anybody in a North Face sweater,
anybody in a North Face sweater, redheads also no good. People who like kale, there's a lot of suspicious.
Anybody
things.
in a fucking FAO Schwartz, we interviewed them all.
Anything. Traveling salesmen, any artists in town.
They're swinging so wild now.
Anybody who, because they have nothing. It was basically, who's weird? Let's talk to them.
Are you a person? Let me talk to you.
Yeah. There was a guy named Dr. Malin Shaw, who was a retired professor in Pontiac, and he was a guy who he stopped for a female bicyclist and offered to take her as far as she wanted to go.
Okay.
And so they said, that might be it.
A bad guy.
When they talked to him, turns out he just said he was 80 years old and his wife died a few years ago, and he likes to pick up hitchhikers so he has someone to talk to.
Just for the chat?
Home, he goes days without having anyone to talk to.
Oh, my God.
He's just very lonely.
Oh.
And also, frail, too. He wasn't
Jesus Christ, my heart.
And then there's a guy named Brule Reed. Brule, cruel with a B.
Okay.
Brule Reed. He was 72, and he was the caretaker at the Headwater State Park.
Okay.
So a couple of the campers reported that Ranger Reed over here was a little too familiar with some of the kids, not in a sexual way, but he played with them and stuff and talked to them.
Okay.
And didn't never take them anywhere or do anything weird, but he was nice to kids when they were around.
What a fucking monster.
I would think a qualification for being the caretaker of a park that constantly have kids at it, So you hate kids? Perfect. Hired.
He had a sunny disposition? What a piece of shit.
You bet. So if you're nice to kids, you're suspicious. If you hate kids, suspicious. Sex poetry, suspicious.
You can't win for losing around here.
No. And this wastes a lot of time with people's weird, fucking atavistic fucking fears of anybody that's different back then would screwed up a lot when they could have been concentrating on Occam's razor here and figuring this shit out. So there was him. They didn't like that. They thought he was creepy. He submitted to a lie detector test and passed. Mm-hmm. But they also say that he failed to satisfy his state bosses about why he allowed a homeless disabled war veteran to camp in the park beyond the 10-day limit and was fired anyway.
Maybe because I have a heart for homeless fucking war veterans.
Felt bad for a guy who just got back from Nam and was missing his leg below the knee.
Yeah, sorry, let him catch a trout and cook it on a fucking Coleman fucking stove, you monsters.
My bad. There's a guy named David Meerhofer, who's a 25-year-old kid. He just came back to Manhattan from Vietnam and worked at odd jobs at local ranches and stuff like that. They said that he was friendly enough, but he didn't talk much about the war or anything else.
Well, you tell me you didn't want to relive it?
Weird to come. So strange. Everyone else loves to come back from Vietnam and they're like, let me tell you about this battle. Oh, it was wonderful. I lost 5 friends and it was great. A lot of people are quiet about that kind of shit.
World War II vets, Vietnam vets. Not a lot of those guys talk about it.
Yeah. No shit, man. The rancher said that around there, everybody had something to say, even if it was nothing. But David was a hard worker who knew how things worked. And they said, but he was just odd. Something about him was odd.
Perhaps the war.
Odd. Another guy, Joe Hunzinger, who is a 70-something-year-old guy who lives in a trailer in Winston, Montana, an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
Which isn't very far in Montana, but still. Yeah. They said it was close enough for him to come in, snatch a child, and go away. Problem with him, though, when they got to him, he was mostly blind from cataracts in both eyes.
So not a good night driver.
Yeah, not great at night driving. He did do a hard time up at the state prison in Deer Lodge for trying to rape a little girl he bought in Mexico to be his wife. He bought a child in Mexico.
Him. Let's just hang on to him for a while still.
That's cataracts or not. I mean, he can't really get around much, but Jesus, put a fence around his house or something. You know what I mean? Fence it off. Put a sign out front. I don't know.
Run a lot of tripwires around his property, so he just trips a lot. Fuck him. Jesus.
Oh, God. There was a family who locked their mentally handicapped child in his room So they wanted to talk to the mentally handicapped child for some reason. And they said, no, we lock him in his room. And they were like, oh, good. And they left. Literally, they're like, oh, good. He's all locked up. That's nice.
What the fuck is happening in Montana? How are there this many fucking...
It's 1950, basically. 1973 is like 1950 in Montana. And this was what it was. Who's weird? That's what they do. Who's different? Who dresses different? Acts different?
It's
listens
shocking
to different music.
How many people exist there that are just so fucked up?
So weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, and then a call comes in.
Oh?
Yeah, it's a call here received, and they said they put out a press release saying that a call has been received asking for ransom, and the money is being collected now. That's
Susie?
What they said. For Susie, for Susan, yeah. The statement issued by the office said, we would like the person who called the other night to please call again.
Please call back. We're getting it together.
We'd like to trace where you are, so if you could call back so we could catch you.
Please call back. The phone lines have nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah, they put that in the paper. Use the same identification procedures of the girl that were used last time. The family is prepared to negotiate. That's what it says. This is fucking crazy. Wow. So... But they have been staying in Montana this whole time, just waiting to see what happens. A Detroit newspaper announced a $3,000 reward for any information, and that's a lot of money in 73. A lot of money now, but a lot in 73. That was like half a yearly salary back then. It's sponsored by the Detroit News. They said to call your tips into Bozeman, Montana. They're wondering whether they'll call back. They said they have no new leads, which is obviously terrible. They said there's been no contact with the mail caller who telephoned a ransom demand. He said there was no way to tell whether the call was a hoax, but they don't believe that it is.
Okay.
They said that the Jaegers are close to being forced to abandon their vigil at the campground. They said, quote, they are still there and will remain until the end of the week. And then as far as I know, they're pulling out. They have to go back home at some point.
Yeah.
They have the dogs back there and all that shit. I mean, you have a responsibility.
A living to make, yeah.
Yeah, the kids have to go, do their shit. So William Jaeger requested an extension of leave from his job as a design consultant in order so they could stay there and search for the girl. It's a mess. Another call finally comes in.
Okay.
All right. The Gallatin deputy Ron Brown takes the day shift in the Operations Command Center, and they said his personal camp trailer was parked at the headwaters as well, where the two kids were taken.
Okay.
And he has two young girls, too. So he's like, hey, I want to find this case. His wife was home alone and all that sort of thing. And his wife, Jane, answers the phone at home. Mm-hmm. And a man just says, Sheriff Brown.
Okay.
And she's like, he's not home. So the guy said, the FBI must think I'm a crank. I'm raising the ransom to $50,000.
Oh, boy.
Put it in a suitcase and small bills at the end of the stall of the men's bathroom at the Denver bus stop.
Oh.
And get rid of the, quote, Negro shoeshine boy.
Don't like that.
Who's in the bathroom there. Then he said, I've got the Jaeger girl.
Okay.
To prove it, her first fingernails are humpy.
Oh.
Okay. So Jane asked the caller to repeat himself so she could take a message like anybody else, like any other time. And he said calmly, repeated everything he just said, and then hung up. So she radios her husband, gives her a radio because it's easier to get a hold of him that way. He reports the call to the FBI, who fired off a teletype to the Denver office, and the special agent in charge said he was going to review all recent calls that might have come in about the Jaeger case, and to immediately, because he said the FBI must think I'm a crank, so they assume he called the FBI, immediately post surveillance in the main bus terminal in Denver. And since the Jaegers don't have $50,000 to pay, the Denver office began assembling a suitcase full of dummy bills for the drop. So,
Yeah, let's fuck with a man who has my child. All right.
I was going to say, how about we put the $50,000 together,
What's it
and when you
matter?
catch him, take it back. How's that sound? When he goes to
he's
get
not
it,
going to take it because
it's not like he's going to go spend it.
He's not going to take because you're going to take him. What are we talking about?
The kids, even the Jaeger kids, cut up blank paper in the shape of dollar bills. They made it like they enlisted the help of the children to do this.
This is crazy.
Wow. On the assumption that the kidnapper was watching, the plan was for Bill to leave the campground like he's rushing out as if he were collecting the ransom money at a bank and then go to Denver. And like that's what he's doing. He's going to go to Denver. But the caller didn't leave any other details, such as the time and date of the exchange. None of that shit, where he would leave Susan. None of that. So they installed a tap in Ron Brown's phone in case the caller calls again. Sure. So, So they were asked... He, finding out this info from the wife who took the message, asked the Marietta and William here, the parents, Susan's parents, is there anything about humpy fingernails, this guy said? And they said the mother gasped. And she described every scar and birthmark and bump, everything. And she said in the beginning, when she went missing, she forgot to mention that she has bumps on in her fingernails on the first fingers.
From biting them.
Yeah, they said they noticed that in the delivery room, that her index fingers both ended in sharply pointed, oddly clubbed fingernails, almost like dog's claws.
Oh, wow.
Weird things. So they said the obstetrician wasn't worried, although they said little Susie would probably have them for the rest of her life. It's not a bad thing, it's just a weird thing. So
she's got her dew claws.
As she grew, her fingernails didn't except to expand widthwise with her fingers. Wow. And at first they were prominent, but then people stopped noticing and nobody really noticed it anymore, and she didn't give a shit either. So
it's fascinating how a defect in your hand goes unnoticed. I'm missing a fucking finger and nobody notices it unless I fucking say
half
it.
Of it. It's like a third of a finger. That's why
it's a pretty big chunk.
It's a third. It's not a whole finger.
True, but it's a pretty good. There's not a fucking nail there.
But like at a glance, if you're talking, you could have it bent. You know what I mean? Like
I suppose, but the hand is fucking mangled. Nobody notices it ever.
No. They said they forgot all about it and hadn't mentioned it, but now they said that's fucking true.
That's our girl.
That's real. You know what I mean? So they know it's real now. So they want to get all the information they can and try to figure that out. So they're like that little deformity could save her life. You know what I mean? That little whatever defect in her finger that doesn't matter anyway. So they start a big fund. The Susan Yeager Reward Fund, and, they're really trying to do this. It's 3.5 months into this now.
Oh, my God.
So it's a lot. They get $8,000 in public contributions in addition to the newspapers putting up money. They're getting a lot of money here. Then the Yeagers get a call.
Oh, boy.
On September 24th.
Oh,
Months have gone by. Marietta picked up the call. She didn't pick up this call. She had gone to pick up her son who was stuck in a downpour and missed his ride home, so she had to go get him.
Yeah.
So she goes to do that. She put her son Danny in charge and took off. She comes back 10 minutes later, and Danny's hanging up the phone, and he doesn't look right.
Oh, boy.
It was a collect call, and it was less than 2 minutes, but Danny got all of it on the Radio Shack tape recorder they had.
Nice work, Danny.
Fucking Danny. Good job, man. So the man asks, now, you're Susie's brother, huh? And Danny said that he was an adult, but not old. Didn't sound anything like that. Had a Westerny accent.
Okay.
You're in Detroit. You can hear a Montana accent or a Western accent. And Danny said, yeah. And the caller said, you like to know where she's at?
Oh, boy.
And he said, yeah, I would. And they said, well, you're going to have to wait a while, the caller said. So Danny said, why?
Yeah.
Good question. And they said, you've had too much police and FBI activity. You may think I'm a hoax, but I know something about Susie that nobody knows. And he said, oh, why don't you tell us? And he said, okay, fingernails of her first fingers are humped. And Danny said, I know that. I meant, why don't you tell us where she is?
Attaboy.
We get it.
Yeah.
I'm
not playing games with you, motherfucker.
I'm not dicking around here. And the guy said, because I can't hardly do that. It's a pretty dangerous situation, you know? And the kid says, well, can't you just drop her off somewhere and let us pick her up? Like, what the fuck, dude? And he says, you want to come west quite a ways? And the kid said, no problem there.
Yeah.
We'll go to Afghanistan if we have to. It's my sister. We'll get her. So he said, the caller said, well, we'll make arrangements one of these days, but for right now, you're going to have to wait a while. And And the kid said, why do we have to wait?
Yeah.
And he said, because that's the way things have to be. Somehow this has turned into every conversation with a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Of
Also, I'm impressed that Danny is such a mature kid that he's like, why do I got to wait? Where am I going? Where do I need
He's
to be?
not afraid of this guy.
No, he's not scared.
That's what I like.
Tough kid.
And he said, because that's the way things have to be. And the caller, that's the guy said, and Danny said, why? I mean, you're not answering any question I have satisfactorily here. The guy says, well, because a person does things like this, he can't get caught. He's got to figure out ways not to get caught. And Danny said, just drop her somewhere a day ahead of time and just leave that place.
Yeah. We don't give a fuck about you.
I'm going to tell you how I think you can get away with this easier. I don't care if they catch you. I want my sister back. So the caller said, yeah, sure. I don't want to drop her I don't want to just drop her for nothing. Anyway, I just want to tell you to wait a while. You will be contacted. It may be another week. It may be a month or 2 months or so, but you'll get contacted. And then hung up.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is crazy. So now a month later, Mountain Bell, which is a phone company there, found a toll ticket for the call. I don't know what that is. A toll ticket?
I guess you get a receipt?
I don't know. If you called from a payphone, I don't know what it is. And reported it to the FBI, which had red flagged the Jaeger's number for phone companies and operators all over America. They were to report any of these calls. The particular number belonged to a 3-pump truck stop and greasy spoon outside Cheyenne, Wyoming.
3-pump truck stop and greasy spoon?
Shitty little place outside Cheyenne.
Okay.
They said that it sat across from it's called Woody's. It sat across from an oil refinery and had 3 payphones.
So he's staying local.
This is Cheyenne. Yeah,
he's not
too
going
far.
very far.
2 were outside its front door, and the other was on the pump island a few steps away. They said whoever called the Jaegers had used the phone between the pumps, but by the time the FBI technicians got there weeks later, there'd been countless fingerprints on it, so they couldn't do anything. No useful prints could be lifted. But the callers, but they do believe now that this is the caller, and they're called, this is our guy, because they know about the fingernails. 8 months go by.
Get the fuck out of here.
8 months go by. Still no word. Okay. Let's talk about somebody else now.
Oh, boy.
Sandra Dykman Smolligan.
Yeah.
S-M Small E-G-A-N.
Okay.
That's her name there. That's her married name. Sandra Dykman is her maiden name. She is 19 years old at this point in time. Yeah. Her parents are John and Betty Dykman, and she graduated from Manhattan High 2 years ago, did very well in school. She's got long dark hair. She's very pretty. She was a cheerleader.
Sure.
She dressed very nice. She wanted a career in fashion design. That's what she was interested in. Yeah. She wanted to get out of Montana and have a career in fashion design here. So there's 4 boys. They have 4 brothers and her. That's the family. So she said they said she never missed Sunday dinner even after she moved out, and she'd usually join them for their nightly prayer hour. Nightly prayer hour.
A whole fucking
That's a lot. Wow. They said she's a terrible driver.
Okay.
The Manhattan High School driver ed car, she destroyed it by plunging it into a canal.
That is awesome.
That's hilarious.
That's fucking killer.
Into a canal, destroyed the fucking thing. Just they had to save her life. She barely got out alive.
God, she's awesome.
That's cool as fuck. That's so cool. Her dad gave her a Ford Cortina. You ever see those?
Such
a little car.
Such a piece of shit. Nobody's ever heard of it.
It's a little kind of 2-door kind of coupe.
Is it like a Chevette?
It looks like it's made for like England mostly, I believe. Oh,
really?
It's like a British looking car. When you look it up, you'll go, oh yeah, that looks like a car. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, see what I mean? It looks like a car you'd see
adorable.
Driving around in the 70s.
It looks like a
London.
Cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what it does. And she loved it because it was cute. It's a little 2-door thing.
Yeah.
When she was 16, she backed into a neighbor's tree right away.
And it didn't matter.
She thought it was cool, though. She thought it was very European, even though it's a Ford.
Right.
Because she said it felt very European to drive it among all the farm trucks.
Sure.
That's what she likes. She's a different kind of girl and wants to get out of here. You can tell, obviously. She meets a boy, though.
Oh.
When she's still a senior, a young carpenter named Jack Smolligan, on a blind date. He's a few years older, but they hang out They hang out by the fireplace in the bunkhouse where he lived.
What's a bunkhouse?
A bunkhouse is
like a motorhome kind of bunkhouse?
No, I don't think so. Well, a bunkhouse is a place where a company will set up for their hardened ranch hands to all sleep in the same room together. That's a bunkhouse.
Jesus, that kind of bunkhouse.
Yeah, that's a interesting place to hang out and have a date. One night they parked over at Lover's Leap, which is above the Gallatin River.
Know what it is.
And he asked her to marry him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At the place where you felt my tits? Come on.
I think in Montana, you go up there, instead of feeling each other's tits and dicks, you ask them to marry you.
You take the leap
I think it's different. Yeah, I think the time is different there. She said yes, and as soon as she graduated, she married him on her 18th birthday, June 15th, 1972.
Okay.
Simple little ceremony. She wore her mother's wedding dress.
Yeah.
Very small town. They honeymooned at Jackson Hole.
Oh.
Then they moved into a 2-room walk-up apartment over the Manhattan Machinery Company, which is a local farm implement dealer.
Wow.
Okay, it's only $150 a month.
Wow.
And they previously rented it to like bachelor mechanics who worked downstairs, but her dad was the shop foreman and a close friend of the owner and got the daughter in there. The owner's name Clifford Meyerhofer. So they said this will be a good place. It's safe.
Yeah.
You know, it's right in Main Street, right in the main town there. Sandy fixed it up because it's a bunch of dudes that have been staying there. So she made it nice and warm. Things are going good. She and Jack play in a little gospel folk band together.
Is that right?
That's cool as shit. Yeah, they're having a good time. Jack builds houses and Sandy waitresses at the cafe inside the bowling alley.
Okay.
That's what she's doing now. They said they love her. She's the star of the bowling alley. Always happy, sunny, knows everybody's names. You know, having another cup, darling? Okay, she's one of those. Yeah. She's good. She made them feel good. And she does have a miscarriage around this time as well.
That's unfair.
Yeah, that's tough on her. But Jack also, her husband here has, what he does is hard on her. He has an affair with his mixed bowling league partner.
Oh, boy.
If you're going to fuck somebody, try not to hang out with them at the place your wife works. Maybe meet somebody somewhere else. So less than a year into the marriage, they break up already because he does this. Jack told her parents about what happened, and her dad punched him in the face. It's awesome and very Montana.
And he deserved it.
Yep. They didn't actually get a divorce, but they just separated because, I don't know, they no need to do the paperwork right this minute. They were done, though. It wasn't happening.
It's over.
But Jack moved out, but he still had a key.
Okay.
And everybody said, his friends said he was eventually wanting to work his way back to winning Sandy back over again. Maybe, but at this point it wasn't happening. So she was a little bit depressed for a while, and her friends said, get out there and start dating people.
Okay.
Get out there, forget this guy, let's go. But she said it's hard because every time I go out, I see Jack because,
he's right there. And
it's a tiny town. There's no one else here. You go down on Main Street, you're passing everybody.
The only place to go is bowling, and he's there with his mixed fucking bowling partner.
Yeah, that's hanging out, laughing it up,
right?
Drinking pitchers,
having a great time.
He came in for dinner at the bowling alley sometimes. Oh, that's romantic. Nice bowling alley dinner, just by himself to just to see her. She would go away. She sold some Mary Kay cosmetics sometimes too. She was a Mary Kay girl and would drive her Cortina out to the country to try to sell it to the farm ladies.
One of those pink Cortinas.
When's the last time your husband fucked you? Well, I got some eyeshadow. That's going to have a dick in you by nightfall. Let me tell you something.
Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. Fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Lowe's, Levi's, and Nike pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cash back. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It's a no-brainer. Membership is free and easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cashback really adds up.
Escape reality and immerse yourself in a gripping tale of mystery, murder, and romance with June's Journey. Join June as she unravels the truth behind her sister's mysterious death, and use your observation skills to find hidden clues and uncover dark secrets. Plus, you get to explore stunning hidden object scenes, from New York parlors to Parisian sidewalks, as each chapter reveals captivating mysteries. How sharp are your observation skills? Put them to the test in June's Journey. Download for free today on iOS and Android.
She started going out again, though, and finally meets a guy named Bob Harrison. He's a family friend. He's 5 years older. He's tall, muscular, handsome, blonde, and a hot rodder.
Oh,
He likes hot rod cars. He drives race cars.
Her ex is gonna be furious.
Right? This is the guy that you go, oh, you're fucking that guy?
Of course, that's what you get now. God damn it.
Yep. He was in California for a few years, which everyone thought he was like worldly because he was, came back and then he came back. Yep.
And he's heard of Von Dutch.
Well, not then, but he probably knows a guy named Von Dutch.
Well, that would have been in the 70s, right? Yeah.
I have no idea.
It was in the
that
70s.
Horseshit came around. God, what horseshit?
It wasn't douchey then. It was just pinstriping and like paint and like
neither
hot rodding
Abercrombie
shit.
and Fitch was an outdoors. They had fucking canoes and shit in the 60s.
Well, this shit was never that. This was subculture.
Companies
shit.
change. Yeah. So Sandy here, he's known as kind of a playboy around here, but that's okay because he's a young, handsome guy and nobody minds back then. So they hook up and they would hook up and then kind of ran hot and cold. She casually dated other guys while they were together, but more in a friendly way.
Okay.
She was kind of only romantic with her, but a lot of guys liked Sandy.
Sure.
Yeah, some were, a lot of guys asked her out.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys that asked her out was her landlord's son.
Oh.
The owner of the place's son there downstairs, David Gale Meyerhofer.
Uh-huh.
He's born June 8th, 1949, landlord's son, nice enough guy. He's a few years ahead of her in high school. You may remember him he was the guy who was a little bit odd, so people called the cops and said maybe he kidnapped the little girl.
Yeah.
Because, he didn't want to talk about his Vietnam War stories.
Right.
So
because he's quiet about the worst part of his life.
he asked her out a few days before Christmas, and they went out. But it wasn't really a good fit. They didn't click really. He's 5 years older, and he knew Bob well. So she's like the boyfriend she was trying to get away from. So she's like, Another thing too, she thought his eyes were just a little unsettling and just wasn't comfortable around him. But he was her dad's boss's son, and so he was a nice guy. He didn't do anything to cause this though. He sent her roses and chocolates and.
He did all
She thought it was kind of cute that he was so conventional about courting. She thought that was kind of cute because it wasn't like what she's used to. She thought that was kind of neat. So he would repeatedly ask her out, but she'd always say, oh, no, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. And it was friendly.
Sure.
Finally, after a while of this, after almost a year of this, she told him, as kind as can be, that we're probably not going to go out again. Like, I just don't think it's going to work, and we don't mesh, and whatever. You're a nice guy, and you'll find somebody great. Yeah. And so he stopped calling. He just said, okay, that's fine. And Sandy, though, one night, she's going to the high school basketball game because they were going for like a state championship or something, and she didn't have a date that night, so she sat with her parents. So Bob was also there, her ex-boyfriend, but he was off chatting up some high school girls in the bleachers.
What a weirdo.
He's like 24, by the way. Yeah, chatting them up. At halftime, Sandy went over and talked to him, and one of the girls overheard their conversation. She told him, well, you know where the other key is. Come on by after the game if you want.
Oh.
So girls heard her inviting him. That night, the Tigers, the local team here, their high school, won their game and became Montana's winningest basketball team in 1974.
How about it?
For them. It was a big deal here. So Sandy headed back to Manhattan with her parents. They dropped her off at the apartment over the implement store there. It was after 11, but Sandy said, she still had a lot of energy after watching the game and cheering and stuff. So she promised her parents, I'm going to go have one or two drinks down the street here. I'll walk and then I'll be home. Don't worry about it. So she changed her clothes, put on a white sweater and dark slacks. She had a long red cashmere coat and walked in her snow boots about a half mile over to the American Legion bar.
You betcha. Look in the balls, too. That's a great outfit.
She would really said she had these like she wants to be in fashion, so she dresses different than the other girls around here too,
red
which also makes her
cardigan
stand
with
out.
Overcoat and black slacks.
A red cashmere coat.
Oh, red
and a white sweater.
Oh, get out!
Hot shit. It's hot shit right there. So she's going to the American Legion bar where everyone dresses up for.
Yeah.
And they said that's the rowdiest place you can get in Manhattan on a Saturday night. Literally, they said that's where it's all happening. The bar was jumping.
War stories.
Yeah. Well, back then it was young guys who just got back.
Yeah.
That was the difference. Those guys still go to that when we were doing comedy shows in there in 2013. It was still the same Vietnam vets from 40 years earlier was the problem.
And to them, they're having a great time, and this is rowdy for them. But when you walk in, you're like, this is rowdy? Oh, my God. Oh, boy. Don't hurt yourself, people.
Right, Jesus. And she's hanging out. She knows all the people in there. She's chit-chatting, doing all her shit. She's flirting with guys, doing everything here, hanging out. Her ex-husband is there. Jack's here.
Yeah.
Sandy and Jack made small talk. He was coaching Little League, and, she's still working at the bowling alley. Sure. They hugged politely and said, okay, see you some other time.
Mm-hmm.
They're done. So a few minutes past midnight, Sandy walks out of the bar, so she did only stay for an hour, a couple drinks.
Did, yeah.
She waved to a friend who was also leaving, and then she stepped off the curb, and the door closed behind her. People saw her step off the curb as the door swung shut. Nobody ever saw her again.
Wow.
Disappeared, gone, off the face of the earth. Half mile down the road on Main Street, no less.
Yeah.
So the deputy here, Deputy Bill Slaughter, appropriately named, here.
Really?
Yep. They get a call from John Dykeman, her father, and he says Sandy hasn't answered her door or picked up her phone since he dropped her off Saturday night. Her car isn't here.
Uh-huh.
Her little Ford Cortina is missing. He called some of her friends. No one's talked to her. No one's seen her. He said Sandy could have taken off somewhere, definitely, and hadn't told her parents because she likes to do shit like that. But they were a little concerned because she could have done it, but it's not normal for her, and she probably would have just said, hey, I'll be gone for a couple days. They said, so they went back and forth. Maybe she ran away for some reason. Maybe she's with her boyfriend, or maybe she met some other guy and they got along and they're eloping in Reno right now. Who knows? You know what I mean? She's a 19-year-old chick. Maybe her husband knew something. Maybe you should talk to them. I mean, they went through everything. So the father suggested local deputies kind of just keep an eye out for her. Maybe not put out like an APB or anything because she might just be doing something else. But if you see her, tell her to call her dad. You know what I mean? Just do that. No press releases, none of that stuff, though.
Mm-hmm.
By the next morning, though, they still hadn't heard anything from her, and no one else has either. Now they're worried.
Yeah.
They use a spare key to get into her apartment where they couldn't find 2 blue suitcases that they know she has, an overnight bag, and a slightly bigger overnight bag, and one of Sandy's favorite white suits that she has.
She's packing heavy.
Yeah, they said they went in, everything, nothing else seemed to be missing, just Sandy and suitcases and some clothes. So they asked the sheriff's department, okay, now fucking find her. Put out a press release.
Yeah.
We're scared now. Call the local radio station, newspapers, tell everybody. Let's do it. So white female, 19, 5'2", 110 pounds, hazel eyes, brown hair. Keep an eye out. They send their investigators and a Bozeman detective to interview the Dykemans more. They talk to her ex-boyfriend there, Harrison. They talk to her ex-husband, Jack. They talk to 60 witnesses.
Wow.
And they searched Sandy's apartment, looked it over, make sure. They examined the spot at the bottom of the alley stairs behind the store, the spot where she would have parked her car, looking for signs of a scuffle or blood, or peel out marks, anything like that. Nothing there. The door at the top of the stairs showed no signs of forced entry, although they knew the family had already been there, so whatever. Her apartment had a little kitchenette, a cheap dining table, and a sitting area from it's a studio, but she kind of, makes a little room out of it there.
And she definitely came home because all of her shit's gone.
That's what's weird. And apart from her unmade bed, they said everything else was clean and neat, and it looked like the one cop called it a neat girl place. Okay. Looks like a girl apartment, girl stuff everywhere. They said unopened mail was neatly stacked on her tablecloth. They looked through it just to make sure. It was just bills and junk mail, though. Nothing there. A jacket was draped in the back of her kitchen chair, the same one she had been wearing at the cafe. where she ate lunch, where he had seen her eat lunch, this cop, because he had seen her before. They did what struck Slaughter, that's the guy's name, Slaughter, as odd as he spotted a half-empty glass of beer on the headboard. And one good thing about a small town is when the cops are investigating someone who's missing, they actually know that person.
Yeah.
And he knows Sandy and knows she doesn't like beer.
She doesn't drink beer.
Doesn't like it or drink it. Yeah. So he said maybe she brought somebody home from the bar or had somebody came over at the last minute. Yeah. Somebody stopped by. She had met up with somebody. Could be nothing, but he kept talking to the sheriff's department about it, and no one took the beer thing seriously. They were like, it's fucking beer. Who cares? So they never collected it as evidence.
What?
Even though he said we need to collect the beer, they were like, it's not evidence, and just dumped it and poured it out. So interesting. They questioned her boyfriend, ex-husband, a fat hippie, as they describe it, who was in the bar that night.
Is that what he is?
A fat hippie, they describe him as.
Nice.
A fat, greasy hippie earlier they described him as. Different admirers, people she went on one date with, friends, what they describe as local perverts.
Yep.
Oh, he's one of our local perverts. Yes, the local pervert.
We used to call him sex criminals.
Yeah. In some places they call him the neighborhood pervert, but here we call him the local pervert. It's just terminology. Bob Harrison, the current boyfriend, Bob Harrison here, was their number one target of their attention. He's a popular guy, and she's a popular waitress and all that kind of thing. So they said everybody knows her, so everybody's kind of a suspect. They didn't know what to do. So her disappearance was, they said it wasn't a low priority, but it wasn't all hands on deck either because there's no signs of foul play.
Yeah. So
they don't know if she ran away. The sheriff drafted up a couple of city cops to kind of chase down some leads for him. And then the FBI in that area was busy with the Yeager investigation little Susan Yeager. So that case had gone cold, but they're still looking at it. So it's a mess, man. It's a lot going on. So 6 days after Sandy was last seen, then everybody's like, okay, this is fucking bad here.
Yeah.
Everyone in town knew her. They knew her parents, and people started looking for them. And they said, we're not waiting for the dipshit sheriff department to fucking fix this.
She spent no money, and her car's missing. She would have had to get gas by now.
Yeah, we have 2 missing girls of different ages. This isn't good. So they set up a command center in the fire hall of Manhattan, and they had city deputies and cops and county deputies and trusted volunteers. Sandy's brothers, Ron and Doug, fanned out across town. Jack was in there, her ex-husband, searching around too. But he stopped hunting when he considered how fishy it would look if he actually found her. Imagine he's the guy who finds her dead. Guys, she's in the woods. He'd be fucked, and he knows it, so he stayed home. That's probably smart.
Somebody said something to him. Somebody told him. They had to.
Hey,
Somebody
dude, what if
why
you
are you
find
looking,
him?
man? What are you going to do when what are you going to do when they find?
Go to prison, probably.
They already think you did this.
No shit. So there's a bloodhound they get that went from garage to house to this to that, and people searched. They searched parked cars, gravel pits, culverts, the dump,
everywhere.
Found nothing. Not a goddamn thing. Not a shred of evidence. Not a sign of foul play. Nothing. A week after this, investigator Ron Green is searching Horseshoe Hills, which is 12 miles west of the campgrounds where the 2 kids had their problems, when he saw a pair of women's underwear dangling from a fence post.
Okay.
Kind of like a guy would hang a tie on a doorknob just to tell his roommate he's banging somebody. They said it almost looked like a signal, like it was hanging there on purpose.
Yeah.
They said nearby was the abandoned Lockhart Ranch. So it's an old abandoned ranch. It's got a weather-beaten, shitty barn, and they said the door was fastened with nails newer than those on the other buildings there.
Oh.
Everyone has, all the nails are the same level of rust, except these nails look brand new in this fucking barn.
Okay.
So they pry the door open.
Oh, God.
And in there they find, under a big pile of straw, the Ford Cortina.
Oh.
It's in there. No signs of Sandy, though.
Just the car.
Just the car, which is crazy. So they take the underwear to her parents to see.
Oh, God, Jesus.
Do these belong to your daughter?
Oh, of all pieces of anything to identify.
And they said, yeah, that's my daughter's underwear and our daughter's car.
Yeah.
But there's no clues anywhere. So the one investigator, Green, sifted an open fire pit near an outbuilding at the Lockhart Ranch and got some charred bones and several human teeth out of it.
Oh, shit.
Further sifting uncovered 1,800 bits of human bones.
Oh.
1,800.
That's a lot.
They were sent to the Smithsonian Institute for analysis. Okay. Nearby was another pit with about the same amount of bones in it.
Oh, shit.
These from a smaller person.
No.
Less of them, smaller bones. So, yeah, they said they're working around the clock. At this point, after this happens, the sheriff told the newspaper, we assumed she probably was killed.
Yeah.
Or we presume that, not assume, presume. He said, though, there's been no positive identification on the bone fragments. We have no way of knowing that's hers. No way of knowing it, maybe in a few days. So they said, yes, they end up finding out that it is her bones and someone else's, too. Yeah, they do the bone studies and X-rays confirm within several days that it is her, that she was essentially cremated on this abandoned, desolate place. They said, though, there's another body, animal or human, haven't figured it out yet, burned at the ranch as well. And obviously the speculation is we hope it's not Susan here. So this caused the FBI to intensify their investigation into the Susan Yeager case. But a spokesman said, we have been working on the Yeager case right along, and we see no tie-in at the moment. Okay. Like, we don't see it. We don't see any of these things going together.
Yeah, we don't see a through line.
But no through line, yeah. They said it's a young girl. It's a teenager out by her apartment after the bar from the campground. Yeah.
But what's with the panty flag? I don't get that. Why did he do that?
Because they always give us, there's always some clue to why it's weird.
They want him found?
They subconsciously want him to be found because then they can read about it and get another rush. That's the thing. Yeah, what fun is it to just leave someone and have them not be found? So they said that there's also a small ring of burned vegetation that marks the spot where they believe at least one victim was burned. They said that piles of old scrap lumber were used for the cremation, obviously, here. Yeah, it's bad. They said the bones were either chopped up or subjected to intense heat, or both. They don't know. The one cop said, I picked up a piece of bone and a chill ran up my spine. Jesus. None was greater than 2 inches in size. Most were burned or charred. What little flesh there was also charred. They said the remnants were what appeared to be human teeth as well. They said a partial lower jaw seems to reassemble dental x-rays of Sandra. That's how they figured that out. Wow, this is fucking crazy. They said it's in a narrow gulch about 6 miles north of the community of Logan and was, when they were searching around. They said there's no evidence of violence in the car because the Cortina's there. The one cop said, I think it's about as far as I can go. They can't say anything more, obviously. At the time, they said they're looking around. They said, please, please, please do not indulge in rumor mongering.
Okay. I mean, you've given us nothing.
The cop said the harboring of rumors and spreading of rumors is not helpful. They said they have no suspects. They said they have no evidence to indicate it was satanic or ritual slayings. Because people are like, it must be. Yeah. So special agents from the FBI now put together, they presume him, they put together the first profile that they ever do, the Behavioral Science Unit. Yep. They say he's a subtle combination of possibly schizophrenia and sadistic psychopathy, probably with some kind of sexual component, almost certainly a mother or father issue. Okay. They said, quote, this is the FBI profile, Susie was probably dead within 2 days. This is what they say. After the golden hour, 1 hour after a disappearance, the likelihood of death becomes exponentially higher. Considering the likelihood that Susie's bone shards had been found at the Lockhart East Ranch last February, it was not a question of whether she'd been murdered, but when. The unsub was probably a white man in his mid to late 20s. His race was a low-risk deduction. Basically, a black guy in the campground would have stood out because there's not a lot of black people around there. Yeah, it's the same thing they did when they were looking at Wayne Williams.
Right.
And they went to investigate, and when a white guy gets out of the car, everyone in the neighborhood, like you hear a record scratch, like, and everyone turns and looks at you. That motherfucker he didn't kidnap black kids. Everybody would have seen it. So they knew that. So they said that he was, Gallatin County is almost exclusively white, and the psychotic killers that they studied had mostly started their killings in their 20s and 30s. So that's what they figured. He was at least moderately intelligent. The kidnapping shows a highly organized thinking who anticipated every investigative move. There's a remarkable level of planning and organization. The unsub took her to another location instead of dumping her, which would have been easier. He had a stronger, more developed fantasy. He brought a knife and was able to move around in the dark. He drove an inconspicuous vehicle and knew exactly where to park, far enough to be unsuspected but close enough for a quick getaway. Even worse, they said for the investigators, the unsub had already picked a place to take her with almost no chance of discovery. He wasn't just like, now where do I go?
He knew what he was doing.
He's a loner, unmarried, and probably has little experience with women. And when he did, it didn't last. Okay. So short relationships, hasn't been like, with a chick for 2 years.
That part fascinates me, how they know the relationship of women with them.
It all goes back. It's all in there. If you read like John Douglas's book, they talk about it. It makes sense. They said, in fact, his whole history of heterosexual relationships would be defective. They presumed he was such a sophisticated psychopath that he'd never trust anyone long enough to have a long-term or married relationship. Okay. That's how much of a fucking psycho he is. They said, sure, married perps have twists and kinks too, but it was good. It was a good chance this unsub wouldn't be interested in real marriage. But they didn't have any evidence. They also said he had military experience.
Oh.
They said there were 3 other children in Susie Yeager's tent. Her parents were in a trailer a few feet away. Other tourists camped nearby. This abduction had required extraordinary stealth, patient reconnaissance, and boldness under the cover of darkness. He had to be fit enough to carry out a struggling 50-pound child as he ran through a dark park, keeping her quiet the whole time. Yeah. They said that they think he's more of a combat veteran than a peeping Tom, probably.
Oh.
They said, besides all that, if he was young as they thought, draftable during the ongoing Vietnam War, chances are that he probably did serve in the military. They said he'd thrive in solitary jobs where he needn't interact with other workers. They said everybody has 3 different lives, professional, personal, and secret. Deeply disturbed criminals work hardest to protect their secret lives. Yeah. The unsub would have been most vulnerable among coworkers and bosses who'd constantly watch him, possibly detecting clues about what a fucked up person he is. Yeah. So he'd keep that to himself. They said he had likely stumbled on the tent in the campground where Susie was snatched, but quickly began planning his next move, probably savoring the risk it might require. They said he lives in the area. In fact, he was well known to local folks, but regarded as odd.
Had to be.
They said the unsub had to know the park's layout and the places he could hide Susie. His boldness suggested that he didn't fear getting caught by local law enforcement, whom he knew well enough to regard as Keystone cops. In other words, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. An outsider wouldn't have been so confident. Also, the possibility that Sandra's disappearance almost 8 months later was related made them think an unsub didn't look like a stranger to locals and who thought they knew everybody. It had to be somebody local. They said that socially, the unsub was friendly but never truly companionable. While not genuinely aloof, he would inject himself unnecessarily into any social situation. So ones that you don't want him in. Yeah. He'd float around the edges of any group. He probably didn't even realize that people considered him odd. Wow. Interesting. The unsub had probably killed before. The snatching of Susie Yeager was too sophisticated, too flawless for a skittish beginner.
Yeah, too brazen.
Too brazen. He wasn't experiment. That's ballsy.
Truly.
3 sleeping kids right next to her. Her parents 10 feet away.
Right there. They're from Detroit. You don't know what they're capable of. And you're going to snatch that little girl. You snatch my 7-year-old. I'm not from Detroit and see what I'll do.
What if Dad had to take a leak and he came out and saw that he would have fucking beat you to death, for Christ's sake, knife or not? I mean, you can knife a guy, but if he's trying to get his 7-year-old daughter away from him, he's going to take a few blows.
See what he's capable of.
He said he wasn't experimenting, and when he killed, it was to maintain his control, superiority, and dominance. His mother was domineering, and his father was absent or unknown. Ed Kemper, who shot his grandparents and later slaughtered his own mother, decapitating or cutting off her hands. We know the story here. That was kind of the model for that.
Okay.
They said he'd make them believe that every psychopath was damaged. He'd made them believe that by one or more of his parents in some way. Obviously, that's kind of how it goes. A lot of it seems to be, not all the time, though, we know now. Yeah. He was fascinated with body parts, they said. It was becoming increasingly common for these killers to retain pieces of their victims, and they even told the FBI agents told the local cop, if you ever find this guy, you're going to find ugly souvenirs taken from the corpses. He's going to have pieces of them, they said. They said, why? And they said, power and control. If he keeps a piece of them, he owns them, basically. They said he'd find a way to insert himself into the investigation. He wanted to know what the cops knew, and that's why they do that. They like to see it. They like to see it, and it's even more of a rush that they're talking about it with him, you know?
And they want to know how close they are to him.
Yep, they said, and risk turned him on. They said they know that why else would you do what he did unless that part of it was risk? They said there also might be a God element. It might show up as a twisted zealotry or distorted religious anger, or it might not. But they said the unsub probably grew up in the area, which they probably went to church a bunch. You know what I mean? They said here, and they said he was very emotional. This was a very emotional crime for him. They said his intense connection to the abduction and to Susie meant that he'd reach out to the family, which meant that this meant something to him. They said he's still deriving pleasure from it. He wanted to mock and torment the family as a celebration of his cunning. So the FBI attached a better FBI tape recorder to the home phone of the Yeagers so they can get somebody, hopefully more. So now Susie's been missing over a year.
Oh, Jesus.
And there seem to be these strange murders, but no one thinks they're related, though, except for the FBI, which is...
Except for the FBI, because they have fucking bones and shit.
Yeah, so they said no trace has been found for her. The telephone calls came in and all that they're talking about, but they say police say they have no evidence to link the Rainey and Smallingen cases to each other or to Susie's.
Okay.
Susan's parents refuse to believe their daughter's dead. Mom said, I have nothing to go on. I just feel she's still alive. I can't give up hope until I have proof.
A boy was snatched or beaten in a tent a few feet away from where a girl was cut out of a tent, and we're not calling those connected at all because of the sexuality of the two.
It's what I mean. It's so weird.
Sex of the two.
Sex of the two. The gender. There
there it is.
There you go. There's the word you're looking for.
That's the difference.
Mrs. Yeager said she and her husband want to return to Montana without the children to search for Susan, perhaps just by wandering through towns.
Oh,
they have nothing else to do. What else can they do? These poor fucking people, man. That's horrible. So the Smithsonian reported that the first batch of bones came from a female 18 to 22 between 5 feet and 5 feet 4.
Okay.
That sounds exactly like Sandra. Obviously here, that is the second set of bones came from a girl between the ages of 6 and 8.
That's 7, right in the middle.
That's 7 right there. So now they're thinking, okay, now we know they're connected because they were burned next to each other.
Right, yeah.
2 separate killers didn't find this fucking ranch accidentally on their own and burn their victims and be like, oh my God, can you believe I've been burning people here too. You run into each other and fall in love.
You had the same idea.
Oh my God. So people they have to chase down every lead, and now people are calling in about every one of their, quote, funny feelings.
Yeah.
There was a trailer park guy who skipped town mysteriously, just took off. A runaway tenant who left a lot of women's clothes behind. A teenager who was, what they said, looking at Sandra kind of funny at the basketball game.
The teenager going, oh my God, they go that big?
No shit. A guy who borrowed an extension ladder from a friend that night. That's all, just an extension ladder.
This guy took my ladder, didn't bring it back.
Need it for something. No, he brought it back.
Oh, okay.
Another guy who rented a floor scrubber from a hardware store the next morning.
Yeah, always question them.
That's always question hardware guy. Yeah, totally. One guy who had no job, he's unemployed. Go talk to him. A short order cook named Willie Pickle, who had one eye and was considered very weird.
Yep, I'd question him too. One-eyed Willie Pickle? One-eyed Willie, last name Pickle.
Willie Pickle.
Yep.
My Willie Pickle right here. Go on and flick my Willie Pickle.
And That's too much dick.
It's too much dick. It's
Question that
all
man
dick.
every time.
So then they go back to their other suspect that they've always kept having on the table, David Meyerhofer. Remember him?
Yeah.
Vietnam vet. Didn't want to talk about it.
Courts women the nice way.
They said people just keep saying he's odd. He's odd. You know, they said, characters were around here. The one guy said characters are acceptable, but oddballs are fishy. That's from the Shadow Man
I want to get
book.
that tattooed.
He was socially awkward, had no real friends, never drank or smoked.
Okay, yeah.
I'm already suspicious. Yeah. I'm very suspicious of anyone like that. And remember when I had my thing, if you never curse, you absolutely molest children? That's my, I've always said that.
Yeah.
In groups, they said he kind of made himself invisible and kind of blended into the woodwork there. They said that people felt sorry for him and wary about him.
Why?
But the one cop, the Dunbar guy, said his gut told him David wasn't a serious player in this whole thing. He's not the killer.
Okay.
Yeah, they got their top suspects and arranged polygraphs. Bob Harrison.
Yeah.
They said that his uneasiness and evasiveness in their initial interviews didn't sit right. So they had to talk to him again. Detectives found his palm print on Sandy's front door.
Oh.
Maybe that was there when he forced his way in.
Yeah.
Or she comes over all the time and it's her sort of boyfriend. So that's also a way. His fingerprints were all over her vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
They said not especially implausible for a boyfriend who spent a lot of time there, but what if the vacuum had been used to clean up the crime scene? Sure. Or he just was a nice guy and said, hey, I'll vacuum while you do the dishes one time. Harrison also married a different girl 2 months after she disappeared.
Oh?
Yeah, what about that? Her ex-husband, too. They're always philandering ex-husbands, always going to be the guy here. A couple of people who didn't quite add up, some sex deviants, like we said. None of the top suspects are super guilty. They really think Bob Harrison did it, though.
Okay.
He fails his first polygraph test because he comes in drunk.
Attaboy.
Next day, his results are inconclusive. They said, though, the examiner was a deputy with only a couple weeks training on a polygraph. So
this is useless.
That guy determined he lied on several questions, and the examiner suggested that he should take a truth serum test at the state mental hospital, and the guy agreed. He said he would do it. Truth serum. 5 days later, he called this cop to say he wouldn't do the sodium amytal in Warm Springs after all. His wife and friends at the bar didn't think it was a good idea.
Yeah.
So he didn't do it. The cop told him if he doesn't submit to the test, nobody could be absolutely certain he didn't do this to Sandy.
Okay.
If he was really innocent, the truth serum will remove all doubt. This is ridiculous. And also the truth serum of that is completely not reliable. It's not anything that's reliable. So, Jesus Christ. They said that he never showed up in Warm Springs, and he wasn't under arrest, and they have no evidence on him or anything like that. Jack, the ex-husband, passed everything. Not a lot of people who were excellent suspects here. One guy was a tough guy railroad guy who'd raped a woman several years back, but was now on parole. Jesus, the cops came. Back then, when he got arrested for rape, the cops came to his trailer to arrest them, and he tried to stab them with a hunting knife.
Attaboy. Jesus Christ.
While the cops were waiting for backup, he threw his wife on the floor and raped her while firing his gun indiscriminately out of his window while he was raping her.
While the cops were there?
Cops outside, there to arrest him, he decided he'd rape his wife and shoot at them out the window as he did it.
He was trying for suicide by cop, right?
I would imagine so.
Jesus.
And when they stormed in and arrested him, they found several 5-gallon cans of gasoline strategically stowed around the trailer.
Oh my God, he was trying to end it.
Later, he told them he intended to light him up and incinerate him and his wife and their kids if the cops came to him, but he didn't get to that. He went raping first, so that happens. The other one, there's a paroled child molester who'd raped a little girl, and he kept hundreds of dolls in his house, most of them without clothes.
You're telling me both of these people are free?
Both of these people are innocent in this case.
Unbelievable.
So they said that they kept coming back to Meyerhofer just because of his oddness. The Dunbar guy said he knew David's mother from high school and thought, that's not her son, but he's got to rule out suspects, so let's find out. He's got no criminal record. Yeah. He's been candid, even helpful by suggesting new leads.
Oh.
Every time he was questioned.
The police?
even helping out, being very helpful.
That's weird.
No evidence against him in either case. He'd refused to sit for a polygraph after Susie's disappearance, but he said it was on principle.
Oh.
So this cop Dunbar said he did his homework on David, said he didn't have any friends. He worked hard and did good work, though. A childhood accident left a small scar on his chin, which made him very self-conscious. He was a beloved by his family, although one time he shot his brother in the head with a BB gun, so he was mad at him for that. And as a kid, he set fire to the family garage while playing with matches. Which I know several people who did that.
Yeah.
Apparently, in first grade, he made a construction paper Mother's Day card for his mom in which he hand-printed somebody else's sentiment that he copied.
I don't know what to say to this bitch. What do you got?
That's fucking funny. What do you got? That's amazing. His favorite movie was, guess what his favorite movie is?
101 Dalmatians.
You're close. Sound of Music.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Sound of Music.
Very
He loved
childish.
to sing.
Uh-huh.
Very child. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very childish. For his mom's 47th birthday, he recorded himself singing the Broadway show tune Mama a Rainbow and some of her favorite songs on a cassette tape. And his mother called it the best gift anybody ever gave her.
Oh, my.
He's a mama's boy.
Yeah.
He's like a Norman Bates. He reminds me of this guy.
This is creepy.
Or Ed Kemper, one of the other. But I don't think his mom's mean here.
I don't think Kemper I guess he did want her approval, but she refused to give it.
Oh, she was mean since he was a kid, too. I mean, that was... He also was a Marine sergeant in Vietnam.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he leader of men here. Ranking. So, and Dunbar, the cop, was like, he's a Marine sergeant in Vietnam. This guy couldn't have done this. He couldn't be fucked up in the head, could he?
He couldn't possibly be really good at being under the cover of dark.
Man, they said even when he was away in Vietnam, he would write home regularly about being homesick and all that sort of thing. When he was on R&R one time, he ordered some fine china to be delivered to his mother.
Yeah.
That's what he did with his time. Didn't go fine ladies and, me love you long time and all that shit. He goes, I need to buy fine china for mom. Wow, she only uses it on special occasions. He's known as a quiet loner, but bright, articulate, and well-groomed as well. Obviously. A few days after they found the Cortina hidden at the ranch here, they came over to his carpentry workshop in Manhattan, and he was, working at the time, and they knew each other, the cops and him, and everybody knew each other. He led them on a tour of his warehouse, which was covered, was almost a whole block, David's warehouse. He came in and told them, they said he came home from the Marines, self-employed carpenter, sometimes a ranch hand. He needed a place here to store his construction stuff. He renovated old houses and took out occasional contract work from the town council when he's not delivering farm machinery for his father. He kept his place tidy and well organized. They looked in the back of his two-tone 1972 Jeep Gladiator and saw nothing. Jeep Gladiator.
Yeah.
And saw nothing. Assorted cuts of lumber were stacked on the walls with various shop tools. A friend rented one corner for his car repair business, and another rented a stall to store some personal junk. David had walled off a back end where he had a padlocked door. He said he apologized profusely that he didn't have the key right now on him, so he can't get into that back room, but he'd bring it to the federal building later so that you can go in there and check yourselves. He said it's a mostly empty room, that he stows some hand tools and building materials back there. That's it. So they did everything. He said he had nothing to hide. He said they told him he's not under arrest. He doesn't have to answer any questions. He said, I'm happy to answer questions. No problem.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. He was, they said that, he'd been questioned before, but had you learned anything more about the Susie Yeager disappearance in the last 8 months? And they said he was offended, Meyerhofer, that he would even ask that. He was like, no. He said, he resents being constantly harassed by the cops about this.
Sure.
They said, well, you were the only one who refused to take a polygraph examination. So if you want to take one now, we'll get it over with. And he said, nope, not doing it.
Okay.
They asked about Sandy. You know her? He said, yeah, I dated her one time before Christmas, and it never got off the ground, the relationship. And he said, I didn't know anything about her disappearance or anything about that. He said, I hated what happened to Sandy, but he and she had truly been two ships passing in the night. That's all. Okay. Hadn't talked to her in a month, although he'd seen her at the bowling alley. They noticed that he showed no signs of anxiety or evasiveness on the subject. He wasn't hesitant to talk about Sandy. Everything was fine. Okay. They said, so take the polygraph. Let us take you off the list.
What's the deal?
Finally, he says, okay, fine. He said, if that'll make you stop coming around, then fine, I'll do it. Okay. So he signed all their stuff, acknowledged that he could end the interview at any time, and permitted the polygraph. And he said, I'll do it. He kept saying he had nothing to hide. So, June 25th, 1974. After midnight, it's 1 year since Susie went missing, the phone rings at the Yeager house. Okay, Mom wakes up, stumbles over to a stool. Hello. They said, is this Susie's mom? Uh-huh. And she said, yes, it is. And he said, well, I'm the guy who took her from you exactly a year ago to the minute. He called on the anniversary.
Just now.
So she said, you did? And he said, yeah. They said, where is she now? And he said, I can't hardly tell you that. Now, the phone tap she's hoping is working here. She says, is she still alive? And he says, yes, she is, ma'am. He says, she says, can we have her back? And he said, I can't hear you. She said, can we have her back? And he said, well, I'm kind of in an awkward position to do that. I've actually gotten used to her.
What does that mean?
And she said, I can't believe you that she's still alive. How can you take a little girl? And he said, well, how would you take care, or how can you take care of a little girl? And he said, well, how do you take care of a little girl? And she said, I have a home and I'm here all day long. And he said, I do also, and I probably have more money than you have.
Oh, my God.
Holy shit.
What kind of thing is that to say?
She said, how can you support her and how can you take care of her and go to work? And he said, I don't have to work, ma'am. We have covered the West pretty well, just sightseeing. Me, I've gotten used to her. So this poor mother's crying now, and the phone went dead out of nowhere. So she's crying, and then the phone rings again.
Oh, God damn it.
And he says, hello, ma'am, we must have cut off.
Hey there, bad connection.
Wow. And she says, why can't we have Susie back? She's our child. She belongs to us. We'll pay you any amount of money, you know? And he says, I realize that, ma'am, but I'm kind of in an awkward position. Well, once I've turned her over to you, she can identify me. And the mother said, not in court. She's too young. They won't put a child in court to identify someone. Yeah, they will. Yeah. He said, I know better than that. I don't need to be in court anyway. Right now, as it is, I'm pretty safe because they have no suspicion of me at all. Haven't been contacted because I'm pretty smart for them. Wow. She said, I don't believe you really still have her. You're trying to play games with us like so many other people. And he said, nope, I'm not playing games. And she said, can you tell me a particular piece of identification about Susie? And he said, I can tell you lots of things.
Oh, God.
And, so he goes on to tell her the fingernail thing again. Prove to me that you have her, is what he says. And he said, okay, all right. First of all, it was I who called the Denver FBI on Saturday, June 30th, late in the afternoon. It's also I who called you. Who called you, who called Mrs. Brown on July 2nd, sometime after 10:30 at night. It's also I who called you on September 24th, early in the afternoon, and you weren't home. Later on, a relative of yours who spoke with me. And finally, I talked to your oldest son, and if that's not enough, you are waiting, aren't you? And she said yes, and he said the nails of her first fingers are hooked. And she said, all right, what else can you tell me? You're a little late with your call because it's been leaked, all that stuff. So, whatever.
He doesn't tell me anything.
And he says, as far as I know, it hasn't been leaked. And she said, tell me something else about her. If you've been with her and traveling around with her, if she's still really alive with you, then you must know a lot of things about her. Has she talked to you about us? What she told you about us? Surely you must talk.
Uh-huh.
And he said, well, the thing is, I've kind of been working on her mind. I almost got most of the memory of you, your home, and your other children wiped out of her mind through psychotherapy.
Uh-huh. She's dead, and she knows it now.
Wow. She says, how are you qualified to do something like that? I don't believe that's possible. She has a good home here. She's loved very much. She's treated well. I can't believe you can erase those kind of memories. And he said, you better believe it. And she said, how did you happen to take Susie? How did you know there was a little girl in our tent? Had you seen her earlier? And he said, I came by the tent during the night and I heard her and her sister talking, but I waited until they fell asleep before I took her. They said, where did you take Susie when you were traveling? How'd you keep her hidden? And he said, I took her to Disneyland, then the San Diego Zoo. I only had to keep her hidden when I was at home. The rest of the time, she's just a little girl with her father. Did she mention the pets we have? Did she say the things we used to do? And he says, look, if you don't believe me, you just as well hang up because you'll never hear from me again. Mother says, I want to believe she's alive. The whole year's gone by, and you're saying she's still alive. I just want to know she's still alive, basically. And he says, that's why I called you, to tell you that she is. So, wow. He says, I expect to get her back to you one of these days. Like I said, I've been working on her mind, and I want to get her to wipe me out of her mind, just like she has wiped you out of her mind. They said, have you been good to her? And he said, yes, I have. Why did you take her? He said, well, it's kind of a long story. I always wanted a little girl myself. Ew.
God, Jesus.
Oh, my God. And she said, did you ever have a little girl of your own, of your very own? And he said, no. She said, are you married? And he said, not now. She asked, has she been abused? Have you hurt her? And he said, no, just that first night I had to choke her some.
Oh, boy.
And it comes out when she came out of the tent. I grabbed her around the throat and all of that. And she said, how did you get away? No one could figure out how you possibly get away. Then he says, are you recording this?
No, dummy.
She said, no. And he said, are you sure? And she said, how could I record it? And he said, with a microphone on the phone? And she said, no. And he said, you're lying to me.
Just like
how
you
dare
are to
you?
me.
You're a fucking kidnapper. What are you talking about? She said, in the middle of the night, I should put a recorder on my telephone? No, I'm not, but I'm concerned about Susie. If you could tell me something to prove she's really alive, I want to know this.
Yeah.
So they go back and forth and all this type of shit. It's fucking weird. At one point, she says, where's Susie? And he says, up in my cabin sleeping.
Up in my cabin.
She says, where are you? And he says, I'm not that far. Jesus Christ, man. Fuck, man. She says, he said, we won't tell anyone if you just bring her home. He says, things like this just draw national attention. How could you let me go scot-free? Once the FBI finds that Susie's home, they'll come right after me. That's why I'm doing the best I can to keep from being caught. I've some things to prepare, like how I do her hair. They said she's had a birthday. And then he said, yes, and we had a very nice party for her, too. Mm-hmm. Then the mother said, what was the date?
Yeah.
He said, I'd like to give you the date. But if I give you everything I know about her, if I call again, there won't be nothing left. I've got to have something to fall back on. Wow. So
that was a nice sidestep, but she had him there and she got him.
Yeah. He said at one point, quote, she said, please bring her back. And he said, I'll see what I can do, ma'am. You seem like a very nice person.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'd love to have this burden off my soul, is what he said, which is interesting. Yeah. Then there's a bunch of clicks on the phone. And he said, who's listening? Who picked up the phone? I heard the phone click. Did you do that? And then he said he apologized for calling so late. And, he said he's take Susie to places where she can play with other children. He said he's a teacher and schooled her at home and showered her with affection. And he promised to call again soon, not another year.
So I'm hanging on to her because I don't have a child of my own. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, I'm just pretending to have a daughter. Mm-hmm. So now they do a voice test. They bring in 5 anonymous people, including David, who would call the Yeagers on a lineman's handset tapped into Ralph Green's jerry-rigged phone wire, which is where they found out this phone call came from a fucking lineman thing, basically. The callers, identified as 1 through 5, would recite the same 4-page script, just what we read you there. And on the other end, they would monitor the call and record them, so they would have that as the anniversary call. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because they had that tape, too, and they're going to compare those. So they had Marietta and Bill, the 2 parents, listen in different rooms, too, unable to communicate, so they wouldn't influence each other into making mistakes here. So a bunch of the people agreed here to do it. David said that one of the callers suggested one of the callers be a guy he knew whose voice he believed sounded similar to his own. Maybe even the man they were hunting, he said. So they convinced David's father, brother, and uncle to participate in this too.
Okay.
So they do all this shit. One by one they spoke. David was number 2. For almost 2 hours, they did all the things. And, is this Susie's mom? Is this blah, 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 blah. she did everything and listened to everything, and they had a hard time figuring it out at first, but they said it was a strong feeling about the voice was the same one. So Bill said he has one voice that he thinks is the right person, okay? Number 2.
Yeah.
Which is David.
Yeah.
So everything's leading to David Meyerhofer, and even the Dunbar guy who thought he was fine and knows his mom now thinks he's probably fucked up. So the profile lines up, everything lines up, man. It's not good for David here. So they said, how the fuck could he, how could he do this shit? So how could I be wrong about all this type of thing? So they get David, and they want to talk to David, obviously. And David, when they tell him they want to, talk to him, they said he protested. He told him the Yeagers identified his voice from the calls, and he's the prime suspect. And they said his voice rose an octave. He said he never called the Yeagers. He knew nothing about their daughter, and he sure as hell didn't snatch her or know where she was now. And it's unfair of you to waste your manpower to fucking get me in here. They said, we'll come in and talk to you. So they do. Okay. They talk to him. They sit him down with an FBI agent, and holy shit, it's very fucking interesting. They find out, too, the words he uses are words he uses. It's all linguistically, it works.
Can't hardly tell you that. Like, that shit is very specific.
It's fucking interesting. So it's wild. They end up bringing him in, and also the Yeagers come into the office, followed by all these agents and everything like that. They say they think we found the guy. They see him, I guess, they introduce the families, which is crazy.
What?
They introduce the Yeagers to David, basically.
Okay. Wait, to David or to...
So they have them in the same room.
Wow.
They meet in the same room. And it's fucking weird. And the mother said it wasn't anything like she expected. He's only 5'4", David.
Really?
Which is about her height. She was like, I didn't expect that. She said he was decent looking, not classically handsome. He was trim, well built. When he spoke, he sounded intelligent and friendly and all that kind of thing. And it's fucking ridiculous, obviously. So she's like, not what I expected. You expect a drooling,
monster. Yeah.
Monster with teeth that are going to bite the kid's face off or some shit. So, they talked all about it. The plan was basically they said, you come in and talk, and then they had the family in there, the Yeager family, and they said, David will crack when he sees you guys.
Yeah.
He'll know he's caught, and he'll crack, but he doesn't. He said, I'm really sorry, Mrs. Yeager. I wish I could help you, but I don't know anything about your little girl. I hope you find her, and he fucking took off.
Really?
So now they got to get a plan B, and that is to confront David away from his lawyer where he might feel more vulnerable and respond differently, which is gray area of legalities here. So the U.S. attorney for Montana had warned them, though, that David's attorney must know the FBI might approach his client, so who knows. So anyway, that night they call his home phone. By the way, Marietta, the mom, calls David's home phone, and David had just come home from bowling. For 84 minutes, they talked again. She accused him of doing it. He said, I don't know where your girl is. Back and forth.
Oh, my God.
Back and forth. Yeah, hour and a half. They said, would you meet me one last time? She says, face to face, just the two of us, me and you, the mother and you. No cops, no lawyers, no tape recorders, anywhere you want.
Mama,
it's like a call for a file. Kick your ass in any parking lot in this country. He agreed. He said, I have nothing to hide. They agreed to meet the next day at the city shop where David was building a float that the town council had entered in Manhattan High School's homecoming parade.
Really?
That's what he was doing. So there's various cops in civilian clothes all over the place, just in case he made any aggressive moves or anything like that. So down the street, Bill, the husband, was kind of in a rental car watching as well. Marietta comes to his shop. He opens the door, but he didn't ask her in. He just stood there. He said, are you wired? And she said, I'm not wired at all. She asked him about Disneyland tickets, her necklace, the lipstick FBI agents had found in his house the month earlier.
Yeah.
And they said, did you kidnap Susie and to replace the girl you knew in California that you had taken to Disneyland? She just said that out of the blue. He just said, I wish I could help you. She said, I forgive you, David. And more than that, God forgives you, whatever you've done, if you only will accept it. And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know shit here. This all kind of fizzles out. So she gets more calls. She gets a collect call back in Michigan,
Detroit,
from a guy who calls himself Mr. Travis.
Okay.
And he said, she said, David. And he said, David who? Is what he said.
Who's
He
David?
said, quote, David who? What are you talking about? She said, you know who I mean, David. And he said, I don't think so. And he said, yes, you do. Or she said, yes, you do. And they went back and forth. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know
Not
what
me.
you mean.
I mean him.
Yeah. Can you prove it to me, David? She says. And he says, what? Why do you keep calling me by David now? What do you mean? Why do you keep doing this? And they keep talking about it. She said, I've met you. We've talked. I know who you are. You're David. I know your fucking voice, you fucking asshole. No, I don't know what you're talking about. And he keeps saying, oh, yeah, you know. There's a little girl on the phone, then.
Oh.
He puts a little girl on the phone. Okay. They hear a faint voice like a mile away, followed by a long pause. Then a little girl speaks into the phone and says, this guy, he's nice. The mother said she sounded about Susie's age, but the voice didn't sound right. And the girl said, and I'm sitting on his lap. And that's when he gets on the phone. And the mother said, didn't sound like her. And the caller said, oh, I'm sorry, but that's the only little girl I've got to give you.
Oh, my God.
And so, they talk. She quizzes him more. How long's her hair? How tall is she?
Yeah.
All this type of stuff here, man. So the Smithsonian, by the way, they found a small vertebrae at the Lockhart place a week before. It was definitely human bone, belonged to a child, all that stuff that we talked about. Holy shit. So they go in they're trying to figure this out, basically, of how they can get David to fucking do something. At this point, they're ready to draw up charges on him, though, because they feel like all these identifications, fuck it. So they said, the cops said, we're positive about it, so let's just fucking arrest him and try. You know what I mean? So they do. They call the Jaegers and said that we're going to arrest him. We're going to charge him with 4 crimes, 2 of which were Sandy's aggravated abduction and murder. They both carry mandatory death sentences now. Okay. So if he's convicted by a jury and there's no mitigating circumstances, the only thing the judge could do is hang him.
Okay.
So that's what they're doing here. He's arrested. Here they take him in. It's after the parade and everything like that. They take him in and they sit him down. And they said, David, you're under arrest for murder and kidnapping. And you have the right to remain silent.
Yeah.
He didn't say shit. They told him what he was, arrested for. They told him we have charred bones. We have all this shit. They told us we think you did it. That the voices all match. What's going on here is ridiculous. Admit it. Just admit it. Just admit it. Just admit it. They keep just telling him, just admit it. Then they said, this is what our search turned up. They ransacked his truck warehouse and garage apartment where he lived. The earlier search had just been a kind of a look and see. Now they ripped everything apart. They couldn't find Susie Yeager's turquoise ring, but hidden on a shelf behind some oil cans, they found a yellow and black telephone lineman's handset.
Uh-oh.
What he used to call that time. They thought that might have been used to place the anniversary call. Wadded up in the back of a dresser, they found a homemade black mask, crudely stitched from thin material like a woman's blouse with jagged eye holes cut out.
What?
Lying open on his a nightstand was a Bible, one of several they found. As a deputy leafed through it, they found 2 passages underlined, and he read them out loud. Quote, and almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood there is no forgiveness. Then, and if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It's better for thee to enter into life maimed than having 2 hands to go into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched. So he's got that. Okay, they're talking about that. So they open up his refrigerator.
Oh, God.
And look inside. Aside from the usual shit there is a plate of uncovered rancid steak that looked like he had intended to cook it, and then he never cooked it. So they said it didn't look like meat, so they asked, or beef, so they asked a couple of the buddies to look at it. Deer, elk, what do you think that is? They said, I don't know, it looks weird. They said he's known to be a hunter, he butchers his own game, maybe it's him. Maybe it could be solved. They also opened the freezer compartment where they found a bunch of home-wrapped packages of meat stacked inside. Meyerhofer had scribbled elk on some of them. 6 were labeled deer burger on one side, and one said SMDS in smaller letters on the other. They said maybe it stood for, something meat and deer sausage, something like that. They said it also could be anything. Those are also initials.
Yeah.
That's her name. That's Sandra Dykman's initials. That's her middle initials.
SDMS?
SMDS is her initials.
Oh, my God.
So they don't like that. So that they don't like. They said they found a small chest freezer beside the fridge. More of the same, white freezer wrap packages. They said it was oddly shaped packages off to the side. One, they picked it up and squeezed it. It didn't feel like it was hardened, like a hardened bird carcass or a halved squash, they said. That's what it felt like, they said, which was odd because neither of those things would be frozen.
Yeah.
Untaped the freezer paper to see what was inside. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, this is crazy. Just Jesus Christ, man. He threw it on the ground when he when he saw inside it.
Was it pieces is it meat or is it actual fucking organs?
That's hands.
Oh my God.
2 small hands.
What the fuck?
Yeah. That's, I don't even know what to say here. This is fucking crazy.
And he's still going to say he didn't do it?
Oh, no. They went in here, they opened the freezer, pulled out all these packages, and they're showing them to all the FBI agents. It was a human hand, a right hand, cleanly sawn at the wrist and shriveled like a witch's claw.
Oh, what the fuck?
They said it was strangely delicate with long nails painted red. Clutched in its palm were 2 fingers also with painted nails. And the guy who found it ran outside and puked outside. He was
how do you
it's
not?
Fucking disgusting. So they packed the meat up in 20 ice packages and took all this shit. They found all sorts of shit, fingers, different meats that were probably human.
Yeah.
The 6 of the packages labeled deer meat contained human flesh mixed with deer meat.
Good God.
Wow. Another contained long strips of human muscle tissue cured like jerky. He made human jerky.
He's eating these people.
He's fucking eating children.
What the fuck, man?
Sorry if this episode's a little longer, but he's eating children. Sorry. The meat in one package contained type A blood, another type B. They said Sandy had never had her blood typed, but she likely had type AB. Susie never had her blood typed either. The fingerprints definitely match numerous latent prints lifted from Sandy's apartment. Yeah. Oh, that's solved. The initials SMDS are Sandra May Dykman Smallingen.
What a monster.
People, there's an angry mob begins to form outside. They want to murder him.
Yeah.
Finally, at 3:20 a.m. on September 29th, 1974, he gives a full and complete confession.
What?
I think we'll probably do a bonus episode and go through this confession because there's no way we could do it here. This confession would take an hour to go through, but it is fucking bonkers. Yeah, he says he fucking did it. They go through him and they're going, yeah, we know what you did. They lay it all out. And at one point they said, do you realize that this one's for the record? And he said, yes. And they said, being very blunt, very truthful, cutting to the bare essentials, did you on June 25th take Susie Yeager from a tent there at the park? And he says, yes.
Oh, God.
Did you cause Susan to be hurt? And if so, why? He said, yes, I had to choke her. They said she wasn't killed when he choked her, but he killed her a little later. Then they said, where'd you take her? And he said, it was about 100 yards north and then over the highway, 50 yards back across the highway to the top of the hill where the monument is, down the road on top of the hill about a half mile to my pickup, which was waiting alongside the river.
Wow.
Oh, my God. He said he
walked her over a half mile back to his car.
Yep. They said, did you throw her in the closet and nail the door shut? He said, no. Well, I undressed her, and then I proceeded to feel her body, and she got pretty wild, and I guess I choked her, and she died.
Oh, my God.
They said, what'd you do to conceal her body? I cut her up. They said, where's it located? He said, well, not much of it left.
Jesus.
They said, what'd you do with the pieces? I put her head in that outhouse behind the ranch, and all the rest was burned. He saved her fucking head.
In the outhouse, though. That's so awful.
In the outhouse. They said, where'd you spread the pieces? The main part of the torso, the upper torso, was burned along a culvert on the road between Lockhart Ranch and Menard. This is fucking disturbing as shit. Yeah, so he gives it all up. He says, yes, he killed Sandra as well. Yeah, that's what he did. He also stabbed Michael Rainey, and he shot Bernie, too.
Boy.
Yep. They said, Nixon Bridge, you did this. Do you know the boy by name? They said, yep. They said, like before, what happened in your own words? Well, I've been up in the hills and came down past the bridge, and 2 boys were there. I seen them playing, and I went down the road and parked about 150 yards and walked around with my rifle, 22 caliber, into the bushes on the other side of the river. Then I saw Bernie Pullman climbing up the pillar of the bridge, and I shot him. I said, did you know he was dead? He said, I didn't know for sure. He just took off. He didn't give a shit.
Wow.
Yeah, he said the other kid took off running. I went back to my truck, and that was that. Yep, he said this is all true. He gives extremely graphic details about everything. You choked her and covered her mouth. That's Sandra.
None of it was for sexual gratification?
He insists that he didn't molest the kid or anything like that.
There's no way, though, right?
Nope. So they said, is there anything else? And like I said, bonus episode on the rest of that. They said, is there anything else? And they said, nothing else. And he said, there's nothing else. So they bring him into a jail cell. 6 hours later, they find him hanged in his cell.
No way.
Yep. Suicide. He split his jail-issue bath towel down the middle and twisted the pieces up to make a makeshift rope. From his cell's top bunk, he tied one end with a simple overhand knot around the highest cross piece between the bars. He looped the other into a terry cloth noose that he snuggled around his neck like Chris Benoit.
What a chicken shit
By the
pussy.
way, he was a huge Boy Scout that used to go camping at that fucking campgrounds and all that. He knows his knots. And then he just plunged head first from the top bunk. Didn't break his neck because and he wasn't as tall as the drop. Yeah. So there he goes. Once he passed out, convulsed spastically for a couple minutes, and he's dead. 25 years old.
Wow.
At least 4 bodies under his.
Probably more.
Probably more. And the questions linger. What the fuck? How many more are out there? You don't just stop doing that.
No.
It's wild shit. So, yeah, he's dead. The Jaeger said they don't hold any hatred for him. They said that he was a very sick man. And they said that I'd hope maybe he could get the help he needs, but maybe it's better this way. Now he stands before the only one who can truly judge him.
Shocking. Absolutely
2005,
shocking.
The case is reopened.
Why?
When a driver's license, wallet, and notebook belonging to Sandra is found when construction workers renovating a garage on East Main Street found it hidden in a wall.
Oh, my God.
The mother said, Betty Dykeman said she'd like to have the things back.
Sure,
that'd be nice.
Obviously.
And Betty died in 2019, by the way.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, that's how that goes. And
he hid the shit in a wall afterwards.
Hid the shit in a wall afterwards, yep. So Bernie is buried at the Fairview Cemetery in Three Forks. Susan is buried at the Bozeman Sunset Hills Cemetery, and Sandra's Meadowview Cemetery there. And so, very fucking sad stuff.
Terrible.
That's Manhattan, Montana.
My God.
That's a lot. And wow, sorry that had to be so gross and everything like that. And we will give you, like I said, that confession. It's a lot. It's raw dog. I mean, it's a guy giving it all up, knowing he's going to kill himself. So.
Nothing to lose.
He's giving it all. Nothing to fucking lose. Wow. So there you go. If you like that case, tell the world about it. Tell everyone about it. Get on social media. Tell your friends. Get on whatever app you're listening on. Give us 5 stars, please. It helps a lot. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com/virtual live to get our live show tickets, virtual live show tickets for October 26th. Available a week after that as well. You can watch as many times as you want. Watch us wear stupid costumes and tell a crazy story. You certainly want to head to shutupandgivememurder.com. Get your merchandise. Tickets to Dallas, December 2nd. Get those tickets. Regular live show. In addition to, you certainly want to listen to Your Stupid Opinions, our new podcast. It's on everything. Yeah. Listen to it, and it's goddamn funny. Also, check out Crime and Sports, because it's goddamn funny, too, and it's not getting the love it deserves. So, goddamn it, love it. Please. Also, you want patreon.com/crime and sports, all your bonus episodes this week, anyone $5 above, the whole back catalog. And this week we're going to talk about BS High, the documentary about the crazy coach who invented a high school.
Yeah.
And then we'll also talk about, for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about Joey Buttafuoco and Amy Fisher. If you don't know that story, his name is Joey Buttafuoco, enough fucking said.
It was awesome.
Definitely, it was awesome. So definitely tune into that, patreon.com/crime and sports. You do all that, and you follow us on social media at Murder Small, at Small Town Murder on Instagram. You'll find us. And you also get a shout out at the end of the show. And Jimmie, I'd like to hear who these people are right fucking now. Jimmie, names of the people who would never, ever, ever kidnap us out of a tent and murder us and burn our bodies. Thank you so much. Hit me with them right now.
This week's executive producers are Rad Barnert in New York City by way of Australia, but he was also born in Czechoslovakia. Rad, thank you.
That's a lot of different continents you got going on there.
Very cool of you. Thank you very much. You made our year better, too. Thank you. Jordan Bennett, Doug Chimerick, I believe it's Chimerick, C. Merrick. Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Peyton Meadows. Thank you for everything you've done over the years. Other producers this week are Liz Vasquez. Gary Friedman wonders how many books you read a year, James. Is it multiple at once?
Yeah, sometimes I'm reading 6 at once. Probably a good 100 a year at least.
There you go, Gary. You happy now? Shanice Kobolowski. Kobolowski. All right. Joe Mitchell.
Isn't that the Uncle Buck's girlfriend?
It is. It was Gary wrote it in thinking he'd get it by you. You beat him.
Come on now.
Joe Mitchell is a bitch. I don't know if you know that. I just learned that today. Haystacks Calhoun sweaty overalls.
Those
there was
money
gross. Donated about those. Janice Hill, Rosa Martinez, Scarlett Horby's the third, and Estevez Jones's wedding registry. James, they're getting married. It's beautiful.
Isn't that sweet?
Congrats,
wow, we made a love connection. I'm so happy.
Eaton Cox, congratulations on that one. Ian Elliott, Dale Crawford, Kristen Beach Tarpley, Willow with no last name, Damon with no last name, Danelle Minton, Haley Renee, Tommy Palmer, Tyga Fan 89, Justin Fletcher, Zen with no last name, Latasha Lincoln, Heather Brule, Dylan Bourne, Stephen Davis, Sin 1 or Sin I, maybe Sin L, I don't, Sin, somebody named Sin.
Ill Sin.
Sarah Helland, David K., Claire Weston, Jordy with no last name, Sarah Lake, Jennifer Brockman, Tyler Hercheler, OMFSM. I don't know what any of that is. Do you know what that is? That's an acronym.
OMFSM?
Yeah, I don't know.
My fucking sad memories? I have no idea. I'm not sure.
Naima Sanchez,
sad titties.
Mohammed Sheikh, Kayla Joe, Mackenzie Hill, Tim with no last name, Logan Johnson, Audrey Sirlalis, Brooke with no last name, Yaya with no last name, Kenneth Buckley, Joshua Ritchie, Stacy Howarth, Amy Segan, Rachel Embry, Melissa Navin, like Johnson, Kaylin Campbell, where am I at? Morgan Okeson, Kieran Friel maybe, Nicola Horn, Nicola Horn, Nicola, all right, Elvind Nyhus. Teresa Mendes.
Like that name.
I felt like that was them trying to get me to say something dirty, but I don't know what a Nyhus is.
Nyhus. That's a good name. I like that.
Teresa Mendes, Blake Jones, Jennifer Budden. That's Joe's daughter, I imagine. Tyler Kia. Sonia, Sonny Zaniga. Oh, boy. I don't like that at all. Crystal Duck, Shannon Wilkie, Kimmy, Tracy Larson, Candy Eastman, Christian Lee Ohms, Rebecca Smith, Tish with no last name, Ryan Chambers, Hannah Walker, Jasmine Rusan, Lacey Saniga. All right. Loretta with no last name, Jakia, Ratliff, Laura Moff, Richard Winter, Bridget with no last name, Ashley Bliss, Ashley Spradlin, Derek Whitson, Nico Doazima. Yeah, there's always a lot of Ashleys. That's a very popular goddamn name. Dozema. Jericho Fellerer. Jericho Fellerer.
Sound like you ran out of gas there.
Victoria
Won't
Scott.
turn over.
I need a jump. Ava Sundquist, Stoner, Sarah Stoner, Holly Phillips, Tara Bullock, Joey with no last name, Will with no last name, Benjamin Pierce, Paige Cade, KD, Sarah Petrocelli, Leonard, Barkhead, Kimberly Kretzinger, Peggy Ballard, Kristen Miller, Andy Mullendor, John Hayes, Sarah Zilka Starkey, Casey Fitzberger, Josh Carr, STC, Matt Gabney, Jenna with no last name, Maria Bergman, Lilliskold, Adam Alvis, Lady Love, Caitlin Davis, Brad Sparks, Isaac G, Melissa Persia, Austin A Strike, Justine Nowicki, Austin with no last name, Joey with no last name, Kyla Blair, Nicole Weswick, Casey Schweiger, Valerie Hilliard, Michael Mitrick, Samantha Hall, Dakota Delaney, Ask Brant, McGowan Zach 88, Sarah Seward, Humphrey Mwinye, Tracy Antonori, Rebecca Merritt, Teresa Shaddy, Tristan M, Colin Powell. That's pretty funny. Oh. Crystal the Pistol, Regina Carlson, Travis Wallace, Megan Bodel, Beatrice with no last name, Ronald Stavnicki, Kathleen Held, Courtney Belika, Donna Magu, Jamie Soledad, Helen Conliffe, Caitlin Motley, Amina Ziegler, Krista Lombard, Sarah Mills, Randa Creighton, Chris Gutro, Tiffany Schmidt, Scott McLaughlin, Zach Alvarez, Jeremy Armand, MK Ostrakaukas, Morris Tayman, and Thomas Bollinger, and all of our patrons. You're terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, so much. From the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate the shit out of you. Running a little long this week. We apologize, but the case was worth it. It's 4 fucking murders. What do you want from us? It's a lot. Yeah. So thank you for joining us. You want to follow us on social media, head over to the website. There's links to everything right there. And until next week, everybody, it's been our pleasure.
Bye.
If you like Small Town Murder, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country, who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.